Good day, faculties, fellow moderators, panelists, and our dear viewers. Our first topic for today is making sense of urban life after COVID pandemic. To discuss this topic, some bizarre urban case studies were selected. What do I mean by bizarre? Bizarre urban case studies, these are case studies that have taken an unusual approach, an unfamiliar approach, which we are not being used to. That is, urban case studies which have not followed the normal approach of urban design which we are used to. As we all know, the COVID pandemic has affected our lives and our environment one way or the other. The way it has affected us is we people not being to walk around, not being to go outside to use our urban spaces. As we all know, we human beings, people, we are the main driving force to the urban spaces. That is, we are the users. Without us, then the urban spaces which we have, it can be functional. So with this pandemic, how will our urban spaces be after? How can we make sense of our urban spaces after the pandemic? Now, during the pandemic situation, there have been lockdowns. People are not allowed to go out. So with this, we are going to look at how can we use our urban spaces after this. With the topics being selected, the case studies being selected, we are going to explain how we'll make use of our urban spaces. And I have 4 speakers for this first session. Okay, they will discuss how we are going to use our urban spaces. And each speaker has 8 minutes for that. And make sure we adhere to the time. I'm looking forward to have a positive discussion with you on this topic. Thank you. First speaker can start, Aish.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope my screen is visible. Myself, Ayushi Poreddiwar, and I am a first-year student in MArch in IIT Roorkee. So I'll be talking about making sense of urban life after COVID-19 pandemic. So the future of cities worldwide is currently being contested and calls to imagine urban future and have come to reimagining life in relation to a range of ongoing and let's say anticipated crisis. The COVID-19 pandemic has also exerted in a way a fundamental influence on the quality of life of almost every resident in every city around the world. So a deeper knowledge on the relationship between the built environment and quality of life in cities can play a catalytic role in shaping present and future urban development. Improving quality of life in cities is becoming an increasingly critical issue for urban planning, and the rise of urban populations worldwide, caused by maybe rapid population growth and urbanization processes, make urban quality of life relevant to more and more people. At the same time, the physical characteristics of cities change to accommodate new residents. So we have to rethink, we have to think beyond, and I think we have to think beyond streets and buildings. I believe large parks can be a key role in it, and since people want to encounter each other outdoors, such parks can encourage nature-based play. A park that will, in a way, knit neighborhoods together with intertwined biking or walking trails. I believe such large connective landscapes will be combating the isolation and interiority of COVID. And I believe we need transformative landscapes that really burst open the patterns of life that we are experiencing now. To strengthen my discussion forward, I would like to refer to a case study. So this is the BQ Park done by Big Architects. The Brooklyn Queens Expressway, which is BQE, built by Robert Moses in 1950s, is an iconic piece of NYC infrastructure, which is a triple cantilever structure. Since the structure is showing the signs of corrosion and aging, New York City has taken on the challenge of repairing the roadway, inspired by the opportunity to work in our own backyard. Big has developed an integrated proposal to club BQP and how to turn the BQ Expressway into BQ Park while still accommodating significant vehicles flow along the route. So covered with a simple deck structure, a step towards waterfront management. This deck provides a platform for adding significant new parkland along an underused corridor while connecting Brooklyn Heights to Brooklyn Bridge Park with a preserved or a reconstructed cliffside, crisscrossed by rampways or greeneries and park amenities. So this deck structure extends to adjacent neighborhoods where it creates a new crossing and urban nexus and the beginning of a linear park which could eventually connect different neighborhoods. I do believe that public spaces will play a key role in restarting our cities after the COVID-19 pandemic by providing environments for community connections and social well-being. Urban play can reimagine public spaces and reframe art connecting people and place in creative ways. This can start by responding to the ways people have been reconnecting to these spaces during the pandemic. Playful approaches to urbanism have an important role in supporting social well-being by imagining new forms of engagement that can support the post-pandemic recoveries of cities. These include a public art that triangulates social encounters and innovative ways of introducing with other people and building social connections. One such project I would like to show is Quanhai Floating City, which is in China. So the Quanhai city, envisioned by People's Architecture Office, triggers an emotional network to a barren site infused with an open spatial framework. So the design assembled a stream of flexible framework draped with rented scaffoldings. It is built as a structural arrangement that can be easily constructed or transformed. So the structure hosts agendas on various scales, including movie screenings, lectures, workshops, and other public events. So the visitors can navigate the floating city's colorful pathways in geometric striations, exploring numerous embedded artwork in the structure. So since this structure was conceived and realized during the COVID-19 pandemic, a current strange time of heightened uncertainty, the project is an expression of how spaces can quickly adapt to changing needs through a renewed focus on the capacity of urban space to drive community connection and social well-being. Our cities may be remade or reconfigured post-pandemic. Urban play can have a creative, productive, critical role maybe in reimagining of urban life. So moving forwards, within contemporary cities, public spaces play a critical role in providing opportunities for people to come together. However, contemporary cities can also be contested by competing future visions or maybe the smart cities and the capitalist cities, starting with the efficiency of productivity driven by technical determination. Over the past decade, these visions have been changed by other value systems that focus on play, people, and place and community. One of the few positive impacts of the pandemic has been a renewed connection with local neighborhoods and community, largely through a simple act of walking or maybe cycling or maybe at urban places for physical fitness training. One such project I would like to discuss is Play Landscape Be Mine. So this site is actually a mining terril and is basically a terril is basically a slag heap, an artificial hill made from dumping the byproducts of mining. So the Adventure Mountain is part of touristic recreative project We Mine that aims to breathe new life into monumental coal mining site in Beringen, which is in Belgium. So the former mining city asked to add new function to the 60-meter high rubble mountain and to redevelop the old industrial buildings into cultural hotspot where its history can be experienced in a playful way, and the interaction also becomes a landmark on a large scale, but through its playable character it also reflects the small scale of a child. So since our world is at an inflection point, COVID-19 has shown us how our society can be reshaped in rapid and dramatic ways, and what can be achieved when experts from across fields and sectors unite in face of an urgent problem. I believe during the COVID-19 pandemic, renewed interest and focus on responsive and adaptive urban planning policies have
Ishi,
emerged, and
can you please start conclude?
yeah, so and tactical responses to the impact of COVID-19 on public spaces to purpose the future that we have forward. Thank you, and that's all from my side. I'll request the next panelist to come forward, please.
Okay, before the next panelists come forward, we should take note of the time also, and each when someone is presenting, if you have any question, you can write it through the chat box. After the first session, we can answer your question also. Thank you. Can the next person proceed, please?
Yes. Can you see my screen?
Yes, your screen is visible.
Okay, very good afternoon to everyone. So I'll be talking about three aspects of urban life after COVID-19. One is accessibility, the other aspect, revitalization, and memorials. We'll see a lot of memorials after this pandemic. Okay, so the first project about accessibility, I'll be discussing about Thames River Museum in London, England. It's a concept. It never got built. Yeah, so basically it talks about equity of space for pedestrians, cyclists, automobiles alike. Because the pandemic, it affected everyone in the same way. We may see equity in usage of public spaces as well. Yeah, so there's this small space, unused space. It's called the Queen's Square. It's along the Thames River in London. It's dry when during low tide, and then it's underwater in high tide. And there's a pedestrian pathway, and people are having to take an alternate route because of the quay, and it's a great deal of inconvenience. So architect Evgeny Didorenko in 2017, he proposed a underpass walkway through the quay with a swimming pool, with a public swimming pool on top of it. And what's interesting about this underpass is you get views of the river. During high tide, you see what's under the river, and during low tide, you see what's above the river. And it's a very, you see patterns of nature, and that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes this public space interesting. I'll go to the next one. The second one is a sea organ in Zadar, Croatia. This is an example of what used to be a very simple waterfront promenade, and now it sings out to people to engage with the space. So this is Zadar is a 2,000-year-old city, like a lot of ancient Roman and Greek architecture, a lot of influence. It's next to the Adriatic Sea, and there is a promenade, waterfront promenade from to just walk along the water. And this project was proposed to connect people of Zadar city with the Adriatic Sea. So the architect has proposed a 70-foot long musical instrument. It's similar to a mouth organ, but the sea waves are playing the organ. And the way it's being designed, as you can see here, you start like you keep coming from the city, and then there's a gradual depth into the sea, step by step. So it's encouraging you to take step down into the sea. And the way it's been designed, towards the higher steps, we have high pitch sounds. Towards the lower steps, we have low pitch sounds. Usually high pitch sounds are associated with opera and mind stimulation. So on the higher steps, we see a man playing playing with the sea organ. He's playing his violin with the sea organ. And on the low pitch side, it's more of a bassy tone, similar to what you see in dance parties or any even religious gatherings. So it encourages people to be physically active, and yeah, there are more steps, like the steps lead into the sea, so people are actually physically getting involved with the project. What really the thought that I got after looking at this project is it reminds me of the Pied Piper of Hamelin. There's a musical instrument here, and then people are being drawn towards it. So it kind of reminds me of that. Go to the next project. This one is a memorial. It's called Jojutla Central Gardens in Mexico. In 2017, a very massive earthquake struck Mexico around 7 around the Richter scale, around 7.2 or something on the Richter scale. And yeah, a lot of buildings, they fell down. There was a lot of loss at that time. And this is the garden that you see here. So what happened was the new buildings that were there, they could not really stand during the earthquake, and they collapsed. But some of the old structures, the local architecture of the place managed to survive. And this memorial is like a homage to the traditional architecture of the region. As you can see, there are vault-like structures. They're not really covered on top, but we're just celebrating the style of the architecture, the local style of the
architecture. Can we start concluding time? We should stick to the time, please.
Yes, these are some more pictures of the central gardens. These are my references, and thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. Next presenter, please.
Next presenter.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Abhinav Kumar from AMAG first year. Today, I'm talking about making sense of urban life after the COVID-19 pandemic. As we all know, the pandemic has hit us very hard, and we don't know when this is gonna end. Since every time we think it's gone, the virus mutates and breaks our expectations. But everything has a good part. It has given every person the time to think about our lifestyles and well-being, think about how the new normal will be. We have seen during the pandemics, people tend to be less interacting and are excluded from the city, which according to the researchers are a cause of poor well-being and mental health. Loneliness eats people. During such time also we observed wide increase in people using public spaces and decrease in automobiles. From the previous few decades itself, people have started talking about sustainability and now about post-pandemic world. Both of them have made us realize the importance of nature and getting connected to it. Pandemic has also taught us that we need more places to get away. As Pract quoted, city centers should not be defined by their real estate, but rather by their real escape. This can be well seen in the Shonge Canal project located at the heart of CBD of Seoul, which brings people back to the water. Located in CBD with good urban density and mixed uses nearby makes it a real escape. The project restores a highly polluted and covered waterway into a pedestrianized walkway while bringing people back to the historic canal. Realized in 2005, the project is well connected and provides a number of entrances, though not universal, and the presence of different references a very easy management during the disasters and pandemics. It provides us with a choice of taking a pedestrianized pathway instead of a roadway. It offers modality of uses where one can sit by the water, have chit chats, watch waterfall, and relax to the sounds, and have exhibitions or take a pic or two. It segregates the crowd with choices. It's diverse in experiences and promotes zero energy consumption mobility while providing freedom and democracy of people with respect to physical distances. It considers rise of water levels and materials like stone that are used that requires very less maintenance and management cost and that can sustain even in a crisis. The project was successful in mitigating flood and increasing the biodiversity of the nearby areas and has become a model for sustainable development. This project is very active on social media too. Leaving aside the benefits and facts, the pedestrianized haven promotes vocability, which is a zero energy consumption mobility. We are leading to a future where we really need to think about it, even about promoting cycling. During the pandemic itself, when gyms and sports were closed, we could see a boom in bicycling. Growth rates were even more than 100%. Many countries have already started encouraging cycling, like Bogota, Belgium, etc. In Limbers, uh, moving forward, we really need to switch to cycling, and as designers, should incorporate better experiences for them. Belgium has already initiated it by incorporating cycling through nature. In Limburg's province of Belgium, there exists a pathway for cyclists that provide a unique experience of cycling through water. It's a 3-meter wide track with water at eye level on both sides. It's also less maintenance requiring project that provides modality of uses like walking, jogging, and cycling and allow you to interact with nature. This project also increases the biodiversity of the region. Belgium itself also has provided unique experiences of cycling through the trees and heathlands. We can see that even a small connection with nature can create a big difference. I think we should learn from the past, where there were a whole Gurukul system which allowed an outdoor learning experience for the children, where we are more connected to the nature, we are more fit. Um, Even in recent times, we can see this project by Newts, this bookworm, uh, that provides an outdoor learning and reading and browsing experience where the inside out nature of design connects you to the nature. We all are aware of the benefits of outdoor learning, which makes us fit. And as we all know, we are in a race where the fittest of all will survive. Hence, we should all realize that we are moving towards an era where public spaces and nature both play a vital role in the urban life after pandemic. Public places need to be thought in connection to nature. These are the references. Thank you.
Can we have the next speaker?
Namaste everyone. I hope my voice is clear and screen is properly shared. Myself Sandeep Kasina. I'm currently pursuing my master's degree in architecture at Department of Architecture and Planning, IIT Roorkee. Without any further delay, let's go forward with the theme in discussion right now, making sense of urban life after COVID-19 pandemic. My lifestyle started to change roughly 21 months ago due to the ongoing pandemic. Of course, this could be different for all of us considering the location where they were residing in and at what time it all started affecting you personally. Irrespective of where you live in the world, the livelihood of you becoming a lot more aware of your local neighborhood this past 2 years happened. Pandemic, fuel rules and regulations have confined majority of us to a few local streets, exposing the limitations of a life spent in or near your own four walls. A crisis like this is often mm, an excellent time to pause and reflect on how we live, work, and play. I would take this opportunity to quickly share some of the thoughts with references from three particularly bizarre or unique approaches taken by the designers to improve a public space and community building. The first approach that I would like to put on is heart control versus being responsible. What exactly I'm pointing out here, I'll explain at the end of the study here. So let's jump into the project that we're in discussion here. So this is a particular project done by 100 architects. It's called Hailu. This is a proposal for renovation of Puzi Road pedestrian bridge in Shanghai. This is an iconic bridge over the Shizhou Creek. The proposed aim transform the bridge into an eventful elevated park as an urban landmark, crossing the city offering a unique urban journey. The design organizes the different circulation by colors, creating a hierarchy of different rhythms and paces. While a straight line in electric line defines the fast track for bicycles and motorbikes, and a winding path in magenta slows down the pedestrian circulation. As a background color and a soothing sign, blue defines the spaces to stop and stay, spaces to socialize, meet and gather. From viewing decks to picnic plazas, lounge areas, or mini amphitheaters, all in contrasting yellow urban furniture and social functions are located there, allowing the loop to wind around them, increasing the appearance of these pockets. Coming to the question that I posed before, is there's two approaches that we have observed during the pandemic in public spaces, especially how people behave in public spaces. For example, it kind of became in such a way that how we control motor vehicles in streets, like we have markings on the road, where to stop, where to start, where to take around. So those kind of markings are still there for people right now. If you observe, we have circles or squares where we have to stand, maintaining social distancing. So the question that pops up from this situation is, are we going to hard control every person's movement right now as a response to the project people's spaces because of the pandemic? Or are we going to make them be responsible of the situation that we're in and give a flexible space where they act responsibly and do social distancing without any marks on the ground? So this is a question to think about. So that's the first question I would like to pop on. So coming to the next case, that I would like to start with an art-based social change. So it's necessarily it's art-centered activity that contributes to the sustained advancement of human dignity, health, and productivity within a community. So there are three major categories which adds meaning to the urban space in relation to the urban art. So experience and perception, social participation, and relationship with the context. We'll see these three things acting in this particular project that I've taken. So there is a particular organization called Project Backboard. They have a simple mission is to renovate public basketball courts. And how do they do it? They install large-scale works of art on the surface. So what is necessary of doing all these things? By doing this, they'll try to strengthen the communities, improve park safety, encourage multi-generational play, and inspire people to think more critically and creatively about the environment. So they have done many projects in United States with various local artists of each and every space. On the left, you can see all the artists' names. Presently, in discussion that we have right now, I'm taking is by William Lachance, artist, which is partnered with this particular organization. We're to create a breathable space into a new life to this area and encourage communities to come together and through sport. So this is a particular space is Kinloch, Missouri, which has a very historical significance. But after years of poverty and corruption, it is now the brink of becoming a ghost town. So after this project Backboard taken this area as intervention. So after this, with public participation, they managed to create this beautiful artwork on the stage. So after this, they managed to create an interdisciplinary course. So what we have to observe is that the interdisciplinary course of art in urban spaces should not focus on whether urban design interventions are or not art. Instead, it should concentrate on the shared goals and methods of practice to achieve more significant social outcomes. So one of the last points that I would like to put in between both the case studies, where it is completely and where it is an open space strategy. So this particular one is nothing but can we go beyond the formally designed open spaces like parks and playgrounds, and actually we can focus on maximizing the informal open spaces such as spaces between buildings and podiums and terraces. So this particular project is a small lane of Fronton Beti Jai. It's actually, you can see, you can identify a sports ground in front of you. It's for a particular sport called pelota. So actually beside it, there is a small street. That is where the focus goes right now. It's a very small street. In fact, it's so small, it's almost like 3 meters wide, which kind of develops, little widens and further and comes back to 3 meters back. but the height of that is 20 meters high on walls on both sides. So this particular street is kind of an abandoned, narrow, in-between spaces enclosed by a wall and a straight curve, serves as and kind of becomes a need for urban intervention here. So the particular architect in discussion actually chosen a very simple approach. He focused on viewing the city through children's eyes, where the basic idea about them is how they primarily play or make things. And using the concept of free movement of our body in space as a key driver, these architects
can you start concluding? Thank you.
Playing scheme and purposefully filling a niche of we have done just with one more slide. So this is the intervention that the architect has managed to keep just by filling the entire space with sand. Experience all over the plant, children need outside spaces to play and run around. They need open spaces and safe streets to active and exert their independence even when they are as olders. The challenges posed by the current pandemic have highlighted how important public realm around the homes in creating this facilitating play, exercise, and informal learning. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Hope this session was useful for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sandeep. The next speaker, Aditya.
Yeah. I hope the screen is visible. Hello everyone, this is Aditya Jain and I am enrolled in MR program at IIT Roorkee, and I would like to present my views. According to me, this pandemic has given a rapid runway to develop our cities in better way. Major goals, global events such as pandemics, economic depressions and wars has shaped our societies before as well. As pandemic regulations are being implemented throughout the world, the question of what will be the future measures. More importantly, how can we ensure a post-COVID or pandemic people first implementation and adoption of physical measures that can inform a future sustainable public life. I would like to take you through some case studies. Going through these cases, it will be easier to understand how urban life can be after the pandemic. So Belgium was one of the severely affected countries in the first 3 months after the initial COVID transmission. These countries were continuously trying to take feasible measures to combat the pandemic effectively since the outbreak. Bruges, the city of Bruges, that is the heritage city of Belgium, got major hit back in its tourism sector after the COVID outbreak. So there is a canal in the city that is running along the heritage buildings facades is the unique element of Bruges, providing beautiful landscape. Designer tried to alter the boundary, of the canal and make people move more towards the water side. In this way, by creating a recreational space where people can enjoy on the water and take waterboarding not just as a borrowed landscape. There are no guardrails on the floating island, so feel free to sit on. They feel free to sit on the edge. Also, the urban play can have a creative, a productive, critical role in the reimagination of the post-pandemic urban life, and the playful approach of the designer towards urbanism that has an important role in supporting social well-being by imagining new forms of engagement that can support the post-pandemic recovery of cities. Also, lower income groups, for example, may rely on urban public spaces for social interaction more than the more affluent, who may have more spaces at home for social interaction than the less affluent, we catalyst for more safer buildings environment. The project that is I'm going to show you now, the project is about the rehabilitation of public stairs that is done recently in 2020. The project takes on different challenges such as urban displacement and social integration. Until 2014, these stairs were used by the soldiers. Peace was established in 2014, but after that also, these stairs were not used for social interaction. They were just mere pathway. So, but in 2000, during COVID, after COVID breakdown, we can see that the children can be seen playing on these stairs, and people can be seen interacting with each other. So during the design process, needs and priorities of the local people were considered by conducting different group discussions. This helped everyone to voice their concerns and aspirations. There was sense of identity and heritage also that was achieved through design elements, and it is clear from the findings of the research adaptive public spaces place for people in the pandemic and beyond that. So in the research, it was found that spaces that reflected residents' needs, historic character, and the arts had more regular visits from the residents. It also suggests community participation and responsive engagement is also vital for equitable spaces. Coming to the third project, Superkalin, it is an ethnically diverse and socially challenged neighborhood. The park is provided with 60 different objects coming from different nationalities of the people inhabiting the neighborhood. So the neighborhood is divided in, the project is divided in 3 parts. The first one is the red square, second is the black square, and the third one is the green park. So the red square is an extension of the Noribro Hall. A large area of the square is covered with multicultural rubber that allows the people to play games and sports. That is basically it allows urban play. And the black square, that is the urban living room. It acts as the living room of the in the urban space and provides a space for sitting and social interaction. And the green park, it was the need of the people in the neighborhood that have that are living there, and this green space allowed to connect with the nature of to have fresh air. It was there was a survey that was conducted by Gale architects, and it was found that there are more people spending time in public spaces in Copenhagen now than before COVID-19. It is paramount that private and public organizations understand the value of public spaces to not only help fight a pandemic but ensure a better future quality of life. There has been a significant drop in downtown activities, especially on commercial streets. The space is being used for recreation, play and exercise. Use of public spaces have been remained constant. Local places that already have a public activity, that is we can see in the image that Superkalin also has the public activity space for public activity, so it attracts more people and has become more popular area. The search for essential outdoor and climatic human needs have become more valuable. Despite the pandemic, humans are still wants places that invite for sensory experiences, and good climatic conditions continue to be more sought after. Superkalin has provided many aspects such as connection with nature and people were able to connect to the objects which attracted them to use the space more. A network of play spaces has a greater goal, developing interaction and engagement between residents and the neighborhood from the entire city. Urban play has the potential to overcome barriers among people and to entice interaction and engagement between citizens, leading to a social activation of the city. So now concluding with the city, what are the changes we can hope to see? Cities have gone stronger. I think cities have gone stronger. COVID-19 has made people to think more about their neighborhood. We can see lanes of traffic given to cyclists and pedestrians increased in urban places with more interactive spaces such as play area or open cafes down off the street. Adaptability is the most important for cities after pandemic. We have learned to work remotely, and maybe that can last for longer, but we cannot spend our life on Zoom. We can't live in isolation for longer. So we need public spaces to interact more. Public spaces will be playing a key role in restarting our cities after the COVID-19 by providing environments for community connection and social well-being. Yeah, thank you. This is it.
Thank you so much for your discussion. Okay, what a lively discussion. What we have learned so far is in this discussion is that we architects, urban design, we need designers, we need to think beyond streets and buildings. We should think more about parks, landscape, how we can encourage people to move outside their homes because they've been staying indoors for a very long time. And also we need to think more about transformative landscape. Okay, and one of these speakers also talk about revitalization, in which how we can bring more life, energy, and success to a particular place there, and also the way we can bring arts into urban spaces. Okay, in which bringing art to urban spaces encourages people and more users to get engaged to that particular space. And we also learned that exercising, we should make urban spaces in such a way people can exercise there. And if you have more questions for our panelists, you can ask your questions now. This is the right time to ask questions. If you don't have this thing, I have questions for the panelists. My question is this: will the present state of urban life during the pandemic be the new normal, or we should drift back into the pre-pandemic lifestyle? I don't know if anyone can explain this to me. Any of the panelists, Ayushi or anyone, or Sandeep?
Hi, Imran. So about the question, just like I was mentioning in my presentation before, that COVID-19 has posed as an inflection point. There has been many awareness and renewed interests and focus on responsive and adaptive urban life. So I believe that we should understand how we use spaces in our cities, and we can maybe redefine and readapt to these spaces in our cities to think through how they can help us in adapting to this change. Like there isn't going to be a similar scenario that we had before. So I think we should be open to adapting to this new change that we'll be foreseeing in the future. That's all from my side. Thank you.
From our viewers, if you have any question, you can please write it in the chat box. If you don't have question, that means you understood all what they have said. So please feel free to ask your questions. You don't have to write it also, you can ask directly to any of them. Okay, I think this thing we don't have more questions. Without questions, I think okay. There's someone raising his hand. You can speak. Someone was raising his hand. You can say what you want.
Please use the chat box if you're not able to.
There's a section of question and answer above hand raising, so you can write your question there. Your question is published. Please, Imran, can you read it loud?
Yeah, there's a question published. This question is from Pragab Ajay. It says, being an urbanists talk about public spaces and developing them to make a better setup for the people to interact and relax. But what we learned during the pandemic was that we were locked inside and all such spaces were restricted. What else can be thought regarding such scenarios? Do you understand the question? Or I should come again?
May I?
Yes, you can.
So the name itself suggests lockdown. We were all locked down in our places. We were more like prisoners, I felt. Like we didn't have freedom to move around. We were just locked down in our own homes. That's my view.
Can I also share my opinion? Can I also share? Hello? Hello?
Yes, Sandeep, we can hear you.
Yeah. So actually, I presented one of the thoughts there in my presentation also about is it going to be responsible or is it going to be, for example, this time what happened is definitely is a first time for us, or we have unaware of it, uncertain of how things work and how things will go forward. But end of the day, at the same time, while this lockdown is happening, people did realize in their small neighborhoods, they realized they need those spaces back. After 1 week of lockdown, they realized the value of those and they started trying to act responsibly and actually access back actually. So the value of that is still there. So only thing, if a better design can definitely help them to completely access for future also is what my belief is. Because that value is what was not there before. Only who are interested in going out, but people are prefer to stay indoors only. Some people. Now the things are going to change. So I'm looking at a very optimistic point of view. Thank you. I hope that answers a thought from your portion.
Anyone has something more to add to the question? And there's another question from Simitis as well. It is, pandemic has also made and enjoy house arrests. In such scenario, are we losing the role and scope of urban spaces? Do we really need them?
I think I'll take that question. The homes that we live in, they're very they're designed based on certain economical parameters. Like most of the real estate that we see in urban cities, like metropolitan cities, they're all made to maximize profit, not for great livability. So it was not a very enjoyable house arrest, I felt, because I was stuck in a city during.
Does anyone has anything to add to the question again, or I should proceed to the next question?
Can I add to make at this point of view also? In my point of view, especially when it comes to staying, if you prefer staying indoors, that option is always there. Post-pandemic, pre-pandemic, that option will be always there. I mean, if you don't want to go out, but the question comes into picture when it's not suddenly something that we realize right now that we started loving our homes or we want to stuck in house. I think that's the difference.
Okay, thank you. There's another question also. It says, with the theme of session 1 being making sense of urban life after COVID-19 pandemic, that she would like to know your views, looking at it from an Indian perspective. I saw just Bokom as an Indian example. So she will want to know more which aspects can be used in India. Does anyone can give more aspects that's this thing, how to make sense of urban life after the COVID-19 pandemic that can be practiced in India?
Abhinav, is bookworm the thing you showed Mumbai, the temporary thing?
I showed it, the Mumbai one, the form. But like talking about urban life from the Indian perspective, I would like to add on that in India, we have a very diversity in population densities and everything. But initiative like bookworm can be incorporated in like that was can be an example for deployable pavilion where you can actually connect to the nature at the same moment, but like you can move that design to some other places also, like that connects people to the nature. So according to me, we should like incorporate different elements in the nature. Like when we are locked down, we really feel like that at least some of the areas are accessible. Like when we live in a housing colony or something, we are allowed to move just into our neighborhoods. So we can actually incorporate public spaces in our neighborhoods and look forward towards a like 15-minute city or 200-meter city. Like we can forward towards public spaces in our accessibility during the pandemics also, so that we can actually be fitter and like do social interactions and feel better and have a better well-being for ourselves.
Thank you so much, Abhinav. I think there are no more questions for this session. With no questions, I would like to conclude this session. You guys have done very good. I would like to call the next moderator to take over from me. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Imran.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Imran. I am Rishi, and I would like panel 2 members to please switch on your videos. So, hello everyone, my name is Rishi Barai, and it is my immense pleasure to act as a moderator for panel 2. The session at hand will introduce us to the topic of creative placemaking and tactical urbanism, while posing the question if it is the solution for post-pandemic cities. Creative placemaking is a process where community members, artists, art and cultural organizations, community developers and stakeholders use art and cultural strategies to implement community-led changes. While tactical urbanism approach refers to a city, an organization, or a citizen-led approach to neighborhood building using a short-term or low-cost and scalable intervention to catalyze a long-term change. Both of these strategies employs high community involvement and can also refer to as urban acupuncture and urban prototyping. It is the community-led development that greatly influences and modifies the spaces around us. So keeping that mind in, keeping the question percolating in the back of our mind, we will now proceed with our first panelist for discussion. I would like to invite Archita Shah to begin. And one gentle reminder: all the panelists will have 8 minutes to present their case.
My screen is visible to you?
Yes, Archita.
Good afternoon. This is Archita Shah from Bangladesh, currently pursuing MI degree in IIT Roorkee. I am the first presenter of the second session of this panel discussion. The title of our second session is Creative Placemaking and Tactical Urbanism, a Solution for the Post-Pandemic City. I will try to portray my view regarding this topic. We are discussing about 3 projects of public space in 3 different countries of the world. So firstly, I want to discuss in short about both the terms creative placemaking and tactical urbanism. Creative placemaking refers to the engagement of diverse people in giving shape of a physical and social character of a place with the goal of improvement of physical environment, promotion of enduring social change as well as economic development. In short, creative placemaking can transform an underutilized place into a vibrant space that can define the city dweller's life and culture. Now the second term, tactical urbanism, which refers to short-term action for long-term approach to community revitalization using low-cost, scalable placemaking interventions. Like an abundant parking spaces can be transformed into a pop-up parklet by using some low-cost seating. In my understanding, tactical urbanism is always about placemaking with small interventions. Creative placemaking and tactical urbanism, both the terms are interrelated with each other. In both terms, we are talking about community engagement. So now coming to my first case study project, Skuru Beach by Big Architects. It is a design idea for a competition entry in Sweden, Stockholm. The project was about designing a new bridge beside the existing iconic Skuru Beach structure to solve current traffic congestion. The design idea emphasizes not only in the connectivity for the people in the motor vehicles, but also for the people on foot. The underspace of the new bridge, proposed as a pedestrian bridge with a constructive arc, resembles a hill between the two sides of the street. So when we are talking about placemaking, placemaking can reach at its best when it connects people and places, especially in pedestrian or transit corridors, or when it adds new ideas to a familiar place. Bearing this in mind, I can say this design idea sets an example for such design approaches of highway bridges who act as intersection over an untouched natural landscape. My second case study project is Seoul Sky Garden, located in the Seoul city of South Korea. Back in the year 1970, it was a highway. Because of facing some life hazards later it was proposed to transform into such a space so that it can change the daily experience of crossing city center of thousands city people of Seoul. They propose the design as a hanging garden. Regular overpass, as we see, especially in the developing third world countries, are a great failure to attract people and regular passerby. So the designers integrated some amenities like sundeck, tea, coffee, fountain, etc. that will ensure informal public activity as well as attract community as community engagement of different locality. As an urban nursery, it will grow more species plants day by day, and city people will experience the natural change. Undoubtedly, the walkability and community engagement of different localities through this pedestrian bridge are enhancing. Thus, in my opinion, this pedestrian bridge or overpass can be an example of creative placemaking for the underutilized overpasses around the world. Now, before proceeding for the next project, I would like to discuss some observation of mine regarding these two projects in this current pandemic scenario. According to the public health researchers, the depression rate becomes triple in the last 2 years. Initially, in 2020, while people first time was told to be at home for an uncertain period, no doubt we all felt the strong urge to go out, work and work in a normal manner at some point. Now people are getting adaptive with this pandemic crisis. In this situation, if we are not considering innovative approaches for public spaces, it will be quite hard to revive the normal public again. In this sense, these two projects with some tactical strategies to ensure maintenance of COVID protocol can be good examples to follow or get inspired. So my third project, Domino Park. This park was once the largest and the most productive sugar refinery in the world, dating back to 1856. Following the closure of this Domino sugar factory in 2004, the whole area was abandoned for many years. Later, the Domino refinery building was declared as a landmark, and the park was designed as a tribute to the story of this site and is dedicated to diversity and resiliency of generations of Domino workers, their families, and neighborhood. Some relics from the past industries are kept as an artifact in their original places, and surrounding them, different types of public activities are happening. So we all know that heritage values represent a public interest in places regardless of ownership. Everyone of the neighborhood are able to participate in sustaining the historic environment of Domino Park. Now, during the COVID-19 pandemic, the projects tried some tactical strategies to be open for the neighborhood people. So they has introduced a series of painted social distancing circles in its open public spaces. So people need to buy chalk from local stores and have to draw a circle of 8 feet in diameter where 2 people can sit for 4 hours. They also put some signage regarding COVID-19 protocols like wearing masks, maintaining social distances, etc. So in the end, I would like to discuss the relation of tactical urbanism and creative placemaking with the post-pandemic scenario. So during this pandemic situation, many urban citizens are experiencing lifestyle changes from containment measures such as lockdowns, quarantine, curfews, etc. Undoubtedly, the health of cities, communities, and neighborhoods is directly linked to access to public open spaces within communities. The COVID-19 pandemic situation may over one day, but the impact that is living in our mind may remain forever. The importance of public spaces for our physical and mental well-being has come to light in the early days of the pandemic. In my opinion, if we can integrate tactical strategies in creative pandemic resilient public spaces, the role of creative placemaking will be served. Thus, the long-term resilience of cities and people can only be sustained. Thank you.
Thank you, Archita, for your presentation. Now I would like to call the next presenter, Imran Bawa.
Is my screen visible?
Yes, Imran, your screen is visible.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Imran Bawa Ubang. First year MAC student. Topic for today is creative placemaking and technical urbanism, a solution for the post-pandemic city. Now, I want to give you guys an idea about what technical urbanism is and creative placemaking. If I want to explain to a layman what technical urbanism is. Technical urbanism is the way we design our urban space with less effort, okay, that will make short-term, that will make long-term change into the society. This has to say that technical urbanism and creative placemaking, they are similar things. In creative placemaking is a process where community members, artists, and art and culture organizations come together to develop various urban spaces. And one thing in technical urbanism is you don't approach technical urbanism directly. You make small efforts, little change. You approach it tactically to make changes in the environment. So the question is creative placemaking and technical urbanism a solution for the post-pandemic city? What I will say to this question is yes, and I'll explain how. Now, when you realize during the pandemic, okay, we can't make use of our urban spaces, okay, and for you to, without us making use of our urban spaces, how can we make use of our urban spaces? So that's when creative placemaking and technical urbanism comes, because in both creative placemaking and technical urbanism, like members of societies, they can come to the already made urban spaces to make little changes there, which can suit them both during the pandemic. The problem now with our urban spaces is that we can't use them now during this pandemic period. So when we give technical urbanism, because in technical urbanism, we don't have to spend much more money to make those changes to the environment, and creative placemaking, which will make our neighborhood, each neighborhood become to make spaces which they can use during the pandemic. So for this project, this is a project in Slovenia. The name of the project is Promenade, okay, and the architects which works on the project, the firm is Enota, okay. About this project is there was a flooded area, okay, which in this flooded area, what they did was that they tried to make an urban space where people can sit, where people can walk, where they can stand and view. Yeah, that's what they tried to make here. And this place is an important area in the city center of the place since the 1950s. And the place is designed with the idea of a garden city. But now the problem is that during pandemic, as you can see with this image here, you can't achieve we can't achieve this picture. People can't stay like this during the pandemic. So it is important that with this scenario, this way we bring technical urbanism or creative placemaking, in which we can make users to use this urban space here. For example, now with this, we can bring artists, which they can come, they can maybe paint areas which to achieve social distance and all. And one of the things about these projects, doing how someone can use this project is that people can come during the pandemic when they are tired of staying indoors. They can come outside to enjoy the nature there. That's how it can positively affect them during the pandemic. In this project has the aim of the project is to provide more green spaces and more programs. But the problem is during pandemic, we can't achieve more programs because of the population density that is going to be there. So we need to see aspect which we can provide more green spaces, which they are going to be important during pandemic. Then there's another case study, Little Island Park, which is done by Hartwick Studio. This park is located in New York, United States, and it is done by Hartwick Studio. With this, they decided to create 3 new performance venues on the river. Okay, this shows us that we don't have to use the land to make new design spaces. And again, with these projects, as you can see, we can't achieve. This is not a good scenario to look at during a pandemic. Era. So. With this, how architects and urban designers are meant to supposed to approach their design is with this more flexibility. Nowadays, the urban spaces are not prepared for pandemics or climate change. So in this design, we needed to provide more flexibility and all. So that's where we bring in technical urbanism, because we are not going to spend much more money, much more cost. Is something a group of individuals can come and change. And this sitting also, we can't achieve it during the pandemic. So we can look at creative placemaking, where people they can come together and see how can we make use of this particular space here. So with this, with what I have discussed, I have to say that we should, from now henceforth, like when designing from this period, we should approach it, our urban space is more flexible, which we can use it any period of time, maybe when effects of climate change come, which we can be able to use this. And with the urban spaces which are already there, how we can change them to use them during the pandemic is through technical urbanism and creative placemaking. Thank you.
Thank you, Imran, for your presentation. Now I would like to call the next panelist, Dhruv Garg.
Hello everyone. I hope the screen is visible. Am I audible?
Yes, Dhruv, you're audible and your screen is visible. Please proceed.
Thank you. So, hello everyone. Myself Dhruv Garg, and I'm currently pursuing my master's degree from IIT Roorkee. And first, I would like to thank Rishi for introducing the question so beautifully. So all of us are currently undergoing the third wave of COVID pandemic. During the last 2 years, we have seen various disciplines and communities come together to fight it at a scale that was previously unconceivable by human imagination. One of those was the design community, which undertook the job of providing comfortable surroundings and interactive living conditions to people. Let's rewind the clock back a few months to the early 2020s. It was a time when a cure was months away, but design, it was still there. Designers couldn't treat people, but were able to provide them with a feeling of unity and comfort of company in an otherwise chaotic world. In a world where everyone was drifting apart more and more, it was urban designers who held the baton of bringing everyone together safely and methodically. Simple and low-cost experiments in urban spaces started popping up all over the globe. Tactical urbanism and creative placemaking had soon become the way to move forward. But the question still remains, how are these small interventions able to help people during COVID pandemic? And will they be able to continue doing so post-pandemic as well? So, starting with a little architectural pun, I would say that the framework for tactical urbanism is built on the foundation of bringing people together. And it's not like we have to construct any large pavilions or structures, especially to make people talk. Even the smallest elements can be used to bring people together. Let us consider a window as an example. Windows are so common that we don't even give them a second glance while walking down the street or in our houses. It was during the time of pandemic that people realized the true value of windows. Cooped in their houses for days, it was only a window that connected them to the outside. Looking through it reassured them that one day they will again be able to walk freely on a curb in front of their house. It has redefined spatial configuration for people and designers alike. Romanticism has been replaced by caution and freedom by restrictions. To move forward in such turbulent times, we need to analyze how existing designs work during pandemic and post-pandemic, bringing us to the aim of this discussion. Configuration of space. The first case I'm going to talk about is Garden of Cosmic Speculations, located in Scotland. Designed by the noted architect and designer Charles Jenks, the Garden of Cosmic Speculations defines a new grammar of urban design. Each and every element in this space is based on some kind of a mathematical formula or scientific principle. Be it the universal cascade, which descends through 13 billion years of cosmic evolution, or the black hole terrace, where distortion in time and space is evident. This project, it won't be a far stretch to say that this project is the love child of Charles Jenks. Unfortunately, this place was closed after the pandemic, and there is no current information as to when it might be opened up. But let's consider a post-COVID scenario in which the virus is eradicated and people have gone back to their normal lives. Easiest task after the pandemic will be removing physical barriers and providing access back to the public. But when we talk about mental barriers, that's where real problem comes in. The mental restriction that COVID has created on people is what we have to address through new configuration of spaces. The human brain is hardwired to feel calm in an area that connects to nature, and a garden of cosmic speculation does that perfectly. And as an added bonus, it also introduces cosmos and mathematics to the equation. The spaces keep us occupied both mentally and physically, as can be seen through the different form of landscape in the image. It is this enhancement of mental stability and engagement that we need from post-COVID urban interventions, a design that forms a bridge between people and spaces. Now, bringing people together. For my second case study, I would like to talk about Kami in the Whispering Forest installation within the city of Agna, Italy. The Moradavaga architects, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing the name wrong, put up this intervention in the year 2018, where no one imagined a scenario like COVID happening. But the way it brings people together is exceptional. This project is an interactive audio-visual intervention that helps people to connect and communicate at different levels. The theme revolves around Christmas and chimneys, creating a space that provides warmth and a place for spirited exchange of ideas, as is done by a fireplace in winters. The red Kami hut from which all this energy emerges poses a question: where do I find Christmas? In addition, the red shining pipes also act as old-style telephones, from where thoughts and stories of villagers can be heard in 12 audio stations. The sharing space created by this project extends beyond its boundary, be it during pandemic or post-pandemic. Rather than coming in direct contact with each other, people get to convey their feelings and emotions through long-distance audio equipment. In this time of isolation, Kami provides a platform for social animals like us and instills a feeling of amity towards others. Sorry. Becoming a part of someone else's story harbors a feeling of harmony and elevates mental health as well. It is an intervention that psychologically links people together while at the same time protecting them from physical harm. A design that forms a bridge between people and people. Windows. Windows are portals to another world. As I mentioned previously as well, the significance of these windows becomes more prominent to us during this pandemic. My third case study provides a little more insight in this idea. The name of the project is Garden of Framed Scenes within the country of Portugal. It is located at a trisection within Fontelo Park. 10 panels with cutouts of different sizes were installed at the trisection, transforming a dynamic piece of flow into a static space of gathering. The forest, which was previously perceived as background, now when looked through these panels turned into a foreground. People say that it is impossible to put nature in a frame, but this project achieves that splendidly with minimal material. It is beautifully simplistic and at the same time frighteningly accurate. The space in between is flexible and can be used for theater performance, school trips, and whatnot. The cutouts and panels provide a portal towards nature and plays on the biophilia hypothesis, which says that humans are innately attracted to green spaces. Urban spaces developed during pandemic or post-pandemic should be able to recontextualize and the surrounding environment, bringing people's focus to mentally calming design elements. The high accessibility of this module will also lead to upliftment of people's psychological barriers and at the same time provide them with the joyous feeling of hope that everything will eventually go back to as it was before the pandemic. This splendid connection with nature and increased accessibility are what we can incorporate in post-pandemic urban design, a design that forms a bridge between people and nature. Summing up, I would like to say that the response to whether tactical urbanism and creative placemaking is a solution for post-pandemic cities is for one to answer themselves. But this pandemic will definitely mark a new phase in the redevelopment of the aforementioned fields. The time for designers to renew people's faith in urban design is now. Thank you. Thank you for being patient with me and to all the organizers of this meeting to provide us this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhruv. Now I would like to call upon the next panelist, Rahul Siguptan. Rahul, you can share your screen.
Namaste to all. Today we are in the second session where we are discussing creative placemaking and tactical urbanism. So we know what is creative placemaking. So we have discussed what is creative placemaking and various aspects of it, various things that contribute, such as use of arts and culture, diverse partners, how a place is shaped to spur and promote improvement by including people into the landscape. Now comes the second theme, tactical urbanism. So in tactical urbanism can be defined as an approach to community building using short-term, low-cost and scalable projects intended to catalyze long-term changes. This is the definition given by Mike Leiden in his book Street Space. Recently
ITTP was also a part of India Cycle for Change. This is, for me, it appears as a starting of an tactical urbanism, which will transform, which will create a greater impact in our cities. So they organized people, they bring for people into stages so that in future our cities will be more cycle friendly. The projects which I will be discussing are Eleftheria Square, and this is located in Nicosia, Cyprus, Republic of Cyprus. It was built from 2005. It was recently completed in December of 2021. It's designed by Zaha with architects. So as you can see, Eleftheria's, this project has connected two different squares, and which was earlier divided by a moat for past 46 years. This has brought two different societies together. It is located near Nicosia. Eleftheria Square is adjacent to Venetian walls and a dry moat that encircles the city. There is numerous stairways and bridges connecting to the nearby bus terminal in Solanas Square. So this has become a new attraction. And the ground under this, there is a parking lot also, so that the center of the city is freed from cars. Next is an Anthropocene Museum 4.4, which is also known as Masai Cave Corridor. This is an celebrated idea which was presented in Design digital competition. This is basically like a tribute to the colonial past and the injustice they faced, basically the people faced. Although colonial past is a history, but still there are many societies who are still facing injustice. Although the colonial rule is over. For example, Masai is often regarded for its natures, where is celebrated for its nature, where you see giraffes and wildlife. But Masai is also heavily like affected by droughts and all. So during these seasons, animals tend to migrate, and still herding community is very strong in this society. So they find it very difficult to cross the like boundaries, or you can say the walls created by the roads. So this is a proposal which will provide designated places of grazing and watering, with salt licks, veterinary clinics, and Masai market trading zones and all. This is designed by Kabake Karancha and Stella Mutegi. I feel this project can only be achieved using tactical urbanism, where pop-up, it should be introduced as a pop-up, then pilot, then semi-permanent and permanent, because the persistent problem is that we are all the entire world is like more automobile oriented. So you cannot bring forth a change all of a sudden. So it should be we should go with the transition approach, so that a change is brought gradual and acceptable. It is always like I feel like the changes that is brought by pandemic, or even the new social norms, people are have an inertia to change, because we are not only opposing the existing norms, but we are also bringing forth new social structures. So it will be better if we modify the existing social structure or physical infrastructure, and slowly we change. These are the references I took. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul, for your presentation. Now I would like to call our final panelist, Gauri.
Just a minute, I'll share my screen. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Gauri, your screen is visible.
Okay, right. So good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gauri Srivastava. I am a first-year student of Master of Architecture program at IIT Roorkee. I'll be continuing the discussion on creative placemaking and tactical urbanism. And are these a solution for post-pandemic crisis? So public spaces have taken on a new life and meaning as people re-emerge from lockdown, as they are the only source of human interaction in local communities. As daily aspects of city life like busy trains or eating outside have suddenly been threatened, in response to it, many of us are redefining our sense of place, which are actually, in my understanding, grounded in the sense of togetherness. All these years, urban planning and for that matter, urban design interventions that were done were planned for long periods and were mostly of permanent in nature. After COVID-19, we have realized that the temporary nature and uncertain nature of life can pose us any threat at any moment of our life. And we have understood that our needs have can change in a very small course of time, and permanent interventions are certainly not the answer to it. In course of 2 years, almost all the norms have changed upside down. We need interventions that are flexible in nature and that can be altered or removed without much investment or interventions. Also, we need interventions that value community feedback and also bring them together. The adaptability and flexibility of tactical urbanism and the creative placemaking makes them a potential solution for our cities in post-COVID world. It aims to create places and encourage community development through temporary low-cost interventions, demonstrating what are the opportunities that we have for future. Because of a greater focus on regeneration and renewal of our cities in the past few decades, that has led us to overlook the importance of interstitial open spaces that we have amongst our neighborhoods or between our buildings. It is these interstitial spaces that will make our cities more human scale and memorable. For future recovery from the loss that we have faced in the past 3 years, these are the spaces where we need to put our focus and we have to put our efforts on. One such example is Park Park. Park Park is a multi-use outdoor space in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. It is designed by a firm called Public City Architecture. It has just opened last September. So Park Park serves a multitude of uses and it unleashes a new perspective as to what people see as for a parking lot. It reinterprets the flat expense of a parking lot and it serves for many uses, including recreational. It's used for resting and yes, even for parking. It is both a rest stop and an urban park. Its enclosure in metal scaffolding topped with colorful flags, it reminds all the users of a fairground, while its concrete expanse and curb stops are reminiscent of skate parks, and skating is also one use that this park promotes. Park Park is a fun play on the most mundane elements of our cities and landscapes. A concrete parking lot, metal signage, and domestic garage door. Clad in their new colors and larger-than-life renditions, these elements encourage playfulness and urbanism that is also always not available or maybe provided in, and certainly not in the parking lots that you would imagine to exist in a normal day-to-day life. So there's seating, phone charger, a bike pump, a small free library, space to play basketball. This space can also be rented for community gatherings, and for those days, this cannot be used as a parking lot. There's a picnic table, cell phone charging station, hand warming station, even if the temperature drops there. So multiple kinds of uses are there that this park provides us with. So Park challenges the way that we think about the regular nature of single-use territories in our cities, encouraging engagement with the landscape and the built environment that echoes aspirations towards sustainability, multi-purpose, and community building. Another example of an interstitial space that's been renovated is Ushang Street Renovation. That's a street in China, in Chengdu city. This is actually located in the southeast of Taikoo Li, which is a very important commercial complex in the same city. Before the renovation, Ushang city was separated from Taikoo Li by a section of wall for many years. One side of the wall has been the busiest commercial street in the city, and the other side is the old residential quarters, and scattered small shops were also there. The barrier of the wall forms a 150-meter long urban fault in the area. During the 6 years from 2014 to 2020, with the rise of Taikoo Li, the original 11 shops on Ushang Street changed hands several times. They were transferred from one people to other people, and some interesting shops gradually emerged. However, a series of negative factors such as existence of the wall, the disorder of the pipe network, and the dilapidated street surface restricted the continuous renewal and development of the Ushang city. The original intention of the design is to break the barrier of the wall, improve the basic conditions of the street, provide appropriate commercial space, and introduce rich business forms so as to continue and stimulate the vitality of the city. According to site conditions, they put forward 3 basic transformation measures, namely renovation, rectification, and temporary construction. The principle of temporary construction design is continuous participation and assembly. The spontaneous creativity of more than 30 old and new store owners on Ushang city will become the foundation of continuous renewal and sustained vitality of the Ushang city in the future. As a concept, tactical urbanism encourages community participation and implementation and creates opportunity for repurposing existing infrastructure to create new identity while ensuring user feedback. Miyashita Park, Tokyo is a great example of repurposing an infrastructure over time as per feedback and needs of the communities or the stakeholders. So through a project by City of Tokyo, Miyashita Park was opened in space between Meiji Street and Yamanote line. Also, there was another river that wasn't very prominent river at that time, Utagawa, and the Shibuya River. So it was used as Akichi in the earlier days in around 1930s to like 1950s. And in 1964, all at one time, Shibuya River next to the park was converted into a drainage conduit, and Miyashita Park was moved to a man-made land, and parking lot was built below it. Changing economic conditions over the course of the next several decades from bubble to bust meant that the park on the top of the lot gradually became both home and refuge for approximately 100 marginalized city residents. Architects were tasked to redesign the park with funding from both Nike and Shibuya ward government in effort to transform the space in 2000s. Park was made into a fenced-off pay-to-play sports facility complete with skateboarding park and different rock climbing walls. In 2017, it was again closed for redevelopment. And in 2020, as we see the structure now, it reopened as shopping complex with rooftop park in recent times. And public spaces today are more about commercial spaces, hotels, and also with the fusion of parks and relaxation spaces.
Sorry.
So, yes.
Sorry to come in, but you have crossed 8 minutes. Please try to conclude it.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah, so this project was developed in 4 stages. Earlier, it was used as Akichi. Then it was converted into a parking lot and a park. And later on, it was converted into a pay-to-play park. And now, currently, it's a commercial complex with a park on top and with a hotel aside. These are some of the images of the project. So in addition to accessible redevelopment of the park and public parking, 4 floors of retail and 18-storied hotel has been placed on this site. So our perception and priorities have changed as a result of this pandemic, and we may not even view public spaces and cities the same way after this pandemic. Many of the prophylactic measures introduced in the lockdown, the world over has challenged with the essence of cities, as well as our aspirations as urban designers and planners. The adaptability and flexibility of tactical urbanism and placemaking makes them the potential solution for cities in a post-COVID world. And we can see this as an opportunity to reshape our cities and reconsider the factors we base our urban design development on. Thank you.
Thank you, Gauri. So that was our final panelist. I must say that we got to look at a very vast variety of case studies with very wide range of ideologies. Each of the case studies were quite unique and bizarre by itself. So to take forward the discussion, I would like to put forward a few questions, and all the 5 panelists feel free to come in and answer the question. So my first question is, what do you think is the most important aspect of tactical urbanism that can be key for post-COVID cities?
Rishi, I would come up and answer that. So as per my understanding, I think the flexibility that tactical urbanism provides us can be the key, because we've all understood this, that no matter how much we plan with any amount of calculations, nature can take a different direction any minute, and that will change our needs and norms. So since tactical urbanism works on the basis of public feedback and are conveniently reversible interventions or changeable interventions, and they also do not cost us a lot of money, and it's actually between conceptualizing and making the thing, and again taking the feedback and doing the thing. So it's also including the community within that development. So the development that's going to happen is going to be on the basis of what the people need, and they can be conveniently changed if we face any situation that would change our requirements.
Do anyone else wants to come in?
Yeah, yes. Rishi, I feel like, as you asked, what do you think is the most important part of tactical urbanism? As Gauri very rightly mentioned, but as Gauri very rightly mentioned, community participation is an essential part. Like during the COVID pandemic, the relationships between people have been modified to a very large level. The community participation brought about by tactical urbanism can enhance that, the unity among people. Along with that, I feel like the very minimal use of materials and a play on the psychological mind of people using these tactical urbanism is something that can be, propagated within the future urban design projects as well. The serenity that is provided by connection with different elements in your surroundings, be it nature or anything else that people are interested in, those things should be highlighted by using these projects of tactical urbanism. Thank you.
Okay, so I want to put forward another question. So the second question is, what is the role of art and culture in creative placemaking in post-pandemic cities? Anyone? Rahul, would you like to come in?
Yeah. Actually, the combination of arts, culture, and diverse partners, not only art and culture, can convert an underutilized space and make it something useful, safe, beautiful, and vibrant. This could involve a painter, sculptor, historian, architect, or any other expression of arts and culture. Uh, the project could be many things, including a mural, a street carnival, or musicians on street for sculpture about the place's history. So artists are involved in the planning, execution, and activity. By bringing forth various partners or various artisans, we will give more value to the space and a sense of ownership.
Okay, thank you, Rahul. Anyone else wants to come in? I can see a hand raised.
I want to comment this thing. You see, in art and culture, this thing it plays an important role in creative space making. How it creates an important role is because different locations, different places, they have different art and culture. Okay, so during this pandemic, okay, neighborhood or different locations, they can come, okay, to create like what it seems to be art for them and culture for them. So in their urban spaces, that's how important art, this thing and culture it is to creative space making. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I can see there are a few questions from the audience side. First question is by Smriti ma'am. So I'll just read out her text. So she says, thank you for the interesting presentation. Could you summarize your observation and finding regarding solution for the post-pandemic cities achieved through creative placemaking and tactical urbanism, giving one or two takeaways each aligned with the following three categories. The first category, phenomenology, making sense of space, meanings, and second point is making, in bracket, design, build, and third point is innovation, experimentation.
I can answer to this question. So talking about the creative placemaking and tactical urbanism solution for the post-pandemic cities, we have discussed these perspectives. How can a space make a sense through some small intervention in a large scale among the community people? How can community engagement in a very what can I say, very small scale activity also can transform a blighted space into a very vibrant one. And coming to the second point, making, design and build relationship. So without any public activity, in any design structures actually doesn't make any sense. So when we are considering through creative placemaking, community engagement, through tactical urbanism, we are engaging people in a space. We are generating ownership of a space. So in this sense, design and the relation between design and build form is generating. And talking about the innovation, the third point ma'am mentioned, experimentation. So creative placemaking is about thinking creative design approaches in an innovative way, like how can a abundant parking lot can transform into a pop-up parklet with a very small intervention. So one need to think in an innovative way to take such steps regarding creative placemaking and tactical urbanism. And for this post-pandemic cities, my other co-panelists also discussed this. We have to adapt, make us adaptive with this current situation, and we don't know what is going to be the future situation in the upcoming future. What will be the situation, COVID pandemic situation? So creative placemaking and both the tactical urbanism, these both them will help us in this manner, that I believe.
Okay, thank you, Archita. So anyone else wants to come in, or shall we move on to the next question? Okay, then moving on to the next question. It is by Avlokita ma'am. For any urban space to be successful, shouldn't all urban design projects be tactical in nature? If yes, why are we not able to incorporate it in all the projects?
So Rishi, I would like to answer that. I think up until now, everybody never could imagine a situation like COVID that could happen, and everybody was investing in long-term interventions. So, and thinking about the future, making plans for like next 10 years or 20 years or 50 years. Nobody really considered having a situation like COVID in between. So I think that is the reason why people weren't doing small interventions. It's not like there were no projects that had that were tactical in nature, but that was a phenomenon that wasn't known to many people. It's around since like around 1980s, but it wasn't very well known factor. That was one thing. Another thing I think is involving community in a country like India. It's a difficult situation. Not everybody would be interested in the first place, and if people would be interested, there are other problems that they might have in their personal lives, or there are problems in government procedures because they are so slow. So government is not doing tactical interventions based on these reasons, and people who are doing it's not like we don't have tactical interventions in our country, but people who are doing interventions are not getting highlighted as such, because for this also we did a lot of internet study, but there were very few I could count on fingers that there were Indian projects on internet. So yes, the projects are there, the people are doing things, but it's not there for people to know about. So and yes, definitely the project should be tactical, because it's going to save our money and it's going to save our time, and it's also be solely in purpose for the community, because they are the ones who are deciding what they want and what they do not want.
And to add to this, I want to add to this about urban spaces to be successful. Shouldn't all urban design projects be tactical in nature? One thing about tactical urbanism project is that it is done in a low scale area. So all urban space design, they can't go tactical, because some, they look at the how durable with that, how long will that project last for. So it is not possible for all urban projects to be done tactically, because in technical urbanism it is done, people do it. Okay, it's coming together of people, and you don't spend so much, and people won't give their funds that, okay, they don't spend so much money in doing it. So, but when in large urban design project, you spend so much cost in it, so they have to look at a lot of different aspects to that. And technical urbanism, it is done in this thing, community-wise, neighborhood-wise. So it can be like all projects should be done tactically. Thank you.
Rahul, you have raised your hand.
Yeah.
You want to say something?
In my perspective, ma'am was very correct. Like urban, for any urban space to be successful, we should employ tactical urbanism, because in our current system of governance or bureaucracy, we don't have a strong feedback system where people will come out and express. There are some initiatives like Ragiri and all, but it is not. It is a unique thing, and it doesn't happen everywhere. So if I feel like tactical urbanism must be the precedent to any urban design project, so that the stakeholders will come forward, and designers and decision makers have to listen to them. Many people, many common man may not be interested to look upon the drawings, or they may be busy with their lives, but whenever there is some action going on around them, it will be easier for them to respond. So I think tactical urbanism should be the precedent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So let's move on to the next question. It is by Smriti ma'am to Dhruv. So the question is, I would love to see more details regarding small intervention. Does post placemaking offer such opportunities? Dhruv, can you come in?
Yes. So thank you, Smriti ma'am. Actually, I would have also loved to show more details regarding these projects. But for the sake of this discussion, I thought it would be better to, to relate the projects with the pandemic that we are currently facing, and like one specific, a few of the elements that can be derived from those projects that can be applied in the future projects that will increase people's, standard of living after the pandemic and during the pandemic as well. And to answer your second question, I feel like I will have to give a little introduction to what porch placemaking is first. So porch placemaking is basically an initiative in which people are inspired, like it inspires people to own the streets that are in front of their houses. Okay, like it, like during a specific week, it says that people should display whatever they want out of the window or on their porches. That might include some kind of an installation, some kind of an artwork or something like that. I feel like it is a very good and amazing initiative that was taken, and I feel like a porch placemaking would help in, in increasing tactical urbanism among people. Like it will help people to own the streets and own the public spaces. People need to do that. Rather, you cannot just so once people start owning these spaces, it will increase the communication among them as well. And I feel like it will anyways and always lead to a better quality of living. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dhruv. So there's a reply back from Smriti ma'am to Archita. So thanks. It says that thanks, Archita. I was hoping to hear more regarding sensory experience, category 1, materiality and construction details, category 2, experimental approaches from flexibility, category 3. The selected projects already demonstrated them. I was hoping for a crisp, consolidated summary to take away. Archita?
Oh, okay. Sensory experiences regarding materiality and construction details, like in my, if I talk in the perspective of my project, the projects I have selected for case study, like Domino Park. In Domino Park, we see that they always have used the heritage buildings as a backdrop scenario for park activities, and there are flexibility flexibility in using approach of the spaces, but they have approached a way that both the historical experience and the experience of the what can I say, new urban design is going side by side. So that's, I think, from my side.
Okay, thank you, Archita. So moving on to the next question, there's a question by Saina ma'am. The question reads, do you think all such post-pandemic intervention will have similar challenges as in Indian scenario? And if not, what are the challenges we can face in implementation of such projects in India, maybe in terms of different cultural contexts?
Okay, I would like to respond to that. What I feel like is, as I mentioned in my projects, there is a certain mental blockage and many other factors that have been, that have been installed in our mind during this pandemic. So I feel that yes, all these challenges are being faced by the Indian population as well. It's not just like these challenges are being faced by all the people around the world, and that includes the Indian population as well. And coming on to the challenges associated with public post-pandemic and how the projects can be varied according to the cultural context, I would like to say that the cultural context might be a little different. The formulation of the project and the strategizing might be a little different, but the elements that can be used can be a little common. Like I would like to verify this by giving an example of one of my projects, the Garden of Framed Scenes, in which I presented the concept of windows. like all of us who were quarantined at a certain point in our time knows the importance of that window element or that element that connects them to the outside. So I feel like the project was uh, sorry about that. I feel like the project was a little site specific as it enhanced the greenery of the space and brought it out. But what I believe is the similar element that they used in that project, the element of window, that element of a break between two different spaces, that can be incorporated in some way in some kind of an urban project or tactical urban project in an Indian context. So, totally, I would like to say that yes, the context and the cultural context might be a little different, but the techniques can be similar. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dhruv. So I think we are almost out of our time. So I think we'll conclude this second panel, and I would like to thank all the five panelists and all the viewers for asking very insightful questions. And I would like to again thank all the five panelists for presenting their case studies and giving very varied and wide range of opinions and their thoughts. Thank you all. And now I would like to call upon the moderator of panel 3, Rahul C. Guptan, to please take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishi. Uh, in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, we have seen changes to the public spaces happening in cities all around the world. While the fast pace of these changes is promising for building a world less vulnerable to coronavirus, one unanswered question remains. Are these renewed public spaces here to stay? Namaste to everyone. I am Rahul C. Guptan. This is the third session of Pandemics and Bizarre Urbanism, lessons from selected global urban projects for post-pandemic cities. In this third and final session, we will be rethinking public spaces in a post-COVID world. In this session, we have five panelists. Panelist number 12, Rishi Berai. Panelist number 7, Karthik. Panelist number 11, Nikita Singh. Panelist number 8, Maimuna Nasir. Panelist number 9, Mansi Sood. Restrictions on the use of public space and physical distancing have been key policy measures to reduce the transmission of COVID-19 and protect public health. We are asked to stay home and avoid many public places for the past 2 years. Now it is time to ask what will be the long-term impacts of COVID-19 pandemic on public space. The depth and the extent of transformation is unclear, especially as it relates to the future design, use, and perceptions of public space. This session aims to address emerging questions at the interface of COVID-19 and city design. It is possible that COVID-19 crisis may fundamentally change our relationship with public space. Now, it is critical to study and measure these changes in order to inform urban planning and design in a post-COVID world. Total vaccination doses in the country is more than 166 crores, according to today's dashboard. And we are hearing more good news as the world is bidding farewell to the restrictions as COVID cases dip all over the world. Parks and beaches are about to open in Maharashtra. International news like Denmark is set to lift COVID curbs, which is the first in European Union. Majority of measures that have been in place for almost 2 years is lifted in Ireland. So there is some good news coming, but it will still be weeks until many of us will be able to return to our public places. But it is time to think about how our daily life may have changed or need to adapt. Now let's listen to the perspective of our first panelist. Nikita Singh.
Hello, I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay. Is my presentation visible?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Myself, Nikita Singh from MArch first year, IIT Roorkee. Today, we are going to have discussion on how the urban spaces will recreate after post-COVID scenario. So it's not the first time we have encountered the pandemic, and of course, it won't be the last. So let's see how previous pandemic has taught us some intervention which we will still follow today. So so learning from the past pandemic, there have a yellow fever in 1793. For the first time, New York housing development has planned with growth of attached funding for sewer and water lines. And that time, USA government has proposed a land zoning coding in its land usage. And second will be the Spanish flu is 1918. So due to the unavailability of the vaccine and like isolation, quarantine, good hygiene, use of disinfectant and limitation of public gathering, which we only known in the COVID pandemic time. So next will be the TB, tuberculosis. So vision of the proper sunlight and ventilation, as it is airborne disease prevail in the housing sectors. So there are some intervention taken because highly spread of disease, and somehow it's changed our life and perception. So now question arises that how we rethink the urban space in post-COVID world. To understand this, we have to answer this question: that what will be our future urban spaces? How will we act future in pandemic? What are the aspects should we learn from ongoing pandemic to make it more sustainable? So
Nikita, your voice is breaking.
Yeah, sorry for this. So my first project is Paris, and now I'm audible.
Yes. Yes.
So my first project is Paris Plague River Seine, run by the Paris authority, which is temporary artificial beach summer along the river Seine. So in every July and August, this roadway on the bank of the Seine closed off and host various activities like sandy beach and palm trees. So there's a need of some affordable beaches for Paris city dwellers, which initiate realized by the authority, and hence the expressway was turned into series beaches. So in the picture you can see the rest of the time when there's no beaches, and the second hand, the right hand side, you can see the summer time, July to August, when road is turned to the beaches and sand pump, lawn chairs and other recreational activities. So in the picture you can see the normal month where there's no beaches and recreational activities around the road, and there's artificial beaches which we can see that work to recover the riverfront from the vehicle. So it's draw local people who might commonly look for the shelter from this mid-year heat on the France coast, and who cannot afford a very costly place, they can go there. So how Paris plague deal with the COVID-19 pandemic after lockdown? So here the intervention has done by the authority of the Paris, which we discussed through it. So they have the outdoor sitting preferable. They have keep social distancing between the chairs. The ways of the restaurant is preferred. So now the sanitization point at every bank of the Seine road. The hand sanitizer is still available at each. Are also accessible to all. So and these beach converted to wooden ramp for the slide sitter and canopy for covering, and they have the dining lounge riverside along with keeping social distancing. So yeah, so now I move to my second project, that is a landmark Greek Harbour. So it's case study from the Dubai, which is international open design competition for design the heart of the ambitious new world class mixed use waterfront development of the Dubai Greek Harbour. So this vision of Dubai Greek Harbour was to design an urban spaces which deal with respect to the culture and climate of Dubai, but also expose children and family to the new world. With the recreational activities and open spaces of congregation, Dubai Greek Harbour seek to a great community feeling, and they have interactive space and visual and group to enjoy the shaded comfort and iconic view of the Dubai skyline. So the location of the Greek Harbour is ideal. It's only 10-minute drive from the downtown Dubai and 10 minutes away from the Dubai International. So resident and visitor will able to enjoy its ideal location, which close to the water and nature in remark. So that's make it more popular and tend to have high footfall during during peak hour. So in the picture you can see we have the Dubai National Airport and Burj Khalifa nearby that site. So due to its natural climate limits outdoor activities, give a high climate, the climatology intervention have been done successfully and it's very beneficial. So the height and proximity wall provide shaded area. Running water will provide the area which give a very calm and very soothing atmosphere. So and the curvature of the wall breaks up, protecting certain areas from gust of wind. So can landmark would be COVID pandemic responsive urban design. Let's discuss each aspect one by one. Firstly, the mental well-being, presence of the water and natural elements relax the human mind in some aspect. It could be a great place for people to come and relax and sit near to beaches and enjoy the sunset, sunrise, along with the high rise of Dubai skyline. Second would be the sense of belongingness. The people of Dubai won't feel the disassociation with the place, and it would be the same like their home, along with the inclusivity of all, as a design refer to all age group of people. And the most important aspect is the scale of the project, that is visitor is assumed. There we need to have sufficient space to accommodate this large group of people. So here are the some aspects we can talk about this project associating with future post-COVID world. Turning to my last case studies from Croatia, China. The pavilion begins in 2019 and completed in 2020. So the design of the bamboo art installation derived from the excellent tensile and bending property of bamboo. It's create a very gray space, which not only provide a shelter to a sun and rain, but enhance ventilation and dissipation of the subtropical climate. Why we need some pavilion? Because the large area of seasonal flower are planted throughout this year and bloom time is beautiful. However, due to the lack of shading area and there is no place for tourists to stay and rest and enjoy the aura of the surrounding. So it led to a very extremely low utilization of the park. Therefore, the service facility have become the primary purpose of the design in attempt to improve the stability of the park, extend the use of time, and increase the utilization rate of the this park. And then the bamboo structure material continue the construction lodging in the whole series, adopting a very curved cantilever bamboo from the shell-like structure, which is combined with traditional bamboo weaving skill and roof cladding. And this also promote a local material and artisan, which they have availability of material. They provide availability of material nearby the villages. They produce such a social benefit for the local area and contribute the revitalization of the village. So from all these case studies, what are the aspects should we learn from this? First of all, we should go for the de-densification. It will regulate the number of users within the public spaces and reduce overcrowding. The third one with the reduce shared facility located in close proximity of the user within the neighborhood. Eliminating the long commuting distance. Third one with adopting public spaces for individually small group activities, and use of technology for the temperature reading, automatic usage of sanitation and for surveillance. Adaptive reuse, maybe during the pandemic, the urban space in city can be set as temporary storage spot for the material and temporary patient receive spot. inclusivity, because during pandemics every age group of person have suffered. So it's most important that maximum urban places should have inclusive and accessibility to all. And the last one is street designing, reduce the vehicular movement and encourage the pedestrian and cycle transit, which we can see in this case study. So here's my reference. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Now let's listen to our next panelist, Maimuna Nasir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you, Rahul, and hello, everybody. And I am Maimuna from Yemen. And before starting, I want to say that I'm so sorry because I cannot open my camera due to weak net connection in my country. Whenever I open the camera, nobody will hear my voice and it will have delay and get broken a lot. So please forgive me for this and let us continue with our case studies. But before that, I wanted to remind you the topic of our session, which is rethinking public spaces in post-COVID world. So according to this topic, I want to show you 3 case studies, and I will start with study number 1, which is Rena Streetscape. It's located in Denver, in River North, one of the top 10 neighborhoods to visit in US. The River North Art District, where art is made, goes by the nickname of Rena, and that was started in 2019 by Sasaki Group. So, what catch the eye in this project is the painting of streets and walls, which are changing every year by local artists and give unique character to the street. And the River North Art District, known for its collection of street art, they often had the festival and paint called Crush Wall Festival. They even bring dozens of local and international artists to area each year to fill wall streets art and offering pedestrian roads over exploration. So you can see here the temporary art studio, the green construction, the outdoor, and also the seasonally rotating sculpture, which rotate every season. All these make Reno have its own character. So backing to our topic, what happens to this project post-COVID-19 pandemic? In 2020, the festival announced again from 14 till 20 of September, with around 100 artists lined up to paint 40 paintings. Of course, the festival started in a way of social distancing and paint some things related to COVID. So I'm going to mention here 2 points. First of all, signs and paintings of COVID instruction. Signs at the point along the street where riders and cyclists and people can walk, and also making appropriate spacing for physical distancing. Better use paint to make vendor stall location in the street, separating people and allowing people.
Your screen is not visible.
Sorry. Now is it visible? Rahul, is it visible?
No, it is not.
Muni, you can try to stop sharing and then share again.
Okay. Now is it visible?
No, Mooney. Yeah, now it is visible.
Okay, sorry for this. So let's continue with us, making appropriate spacing for physical distancing. And the Rena Support Fund was created in 2020 to provide financial support to the community, and it funded by $2,000 to 170 of artists and business. In the first round, Rena Art District was able to extend the program for 2021, and it's currently reviewing application for the next round too. So this is a good thing. But now let us go to the next case study. This case study is Bellars of Dreams in Mecklenburg and in North Carolina. And it was done by Mark Farnes, and the area is 600 feet square. So what the most attractive thing in this project is the light and color and natural tone, which a person can hear and see while sitting there to feel relaxed. A pillar of dreams is not only a place to sit under or next to and relax, it's also a landmark pavilion and light weight structure, while its Borsa volume seems to float in the air, which is supported by a continuous structural skin in ultra-thin aluminum. So a public health perspective, people of all ages deserve access to safe outdoor spaces, especially now, when data suggests that COVID-19 transmission rates may be scientifically lower outdoors than indoors. So in this case study, I was looking to see what owner and urban designer has added to these public spaces to make it safer and more appropriate post-COVID, especially that a lot of children and elderly like to visit this place for its color and nature tones, but I didn't find such change in my search. I was eager to find something like installing hand washing stations among this space, because children, when they come here, they directly touch this texture to figure out what's this thing that produced this red and blue lights and give this tone. So it's needed such thing. And the second thing is physical distancing guidelines to define safe layout and spacing for vendor stalls and circulation routes based on local distancing guidelines. But nothing has happened, so I have to move to my third project. This is the third project. It is in Jinan Spring City. It is Jinan Spring City Square, which is located in Jinan City, and that was in 2019, and the area is 2,000 meters square. So the project creates an open interface with the city and explore a new expansion of iconography across the site. Unique smaller scale spaces encourage people to gather, chat, visit, and seek inspiration from nature. So dynamic movement is the hallmark of this city square that link together commercial development with the natural beauty of the area. The design elements and materials enable people to experience a wide vocabulary of continuous movement. The project utilizes a variety of stones to express local characteristics, stairs, the walls, the seating, the elements, and the plants all have unique way of depicting motion. And the design cleverly blends the challenge of the site height into the site elements and restore the smooth motion of the spring and the pavement design. Planting also moves through the levels of the site, showing each of the 4 seasons. The most important point now is, okay, what is going now in the pandemic, 19 pandemic, post-COVID in this project? Okay, the Jinan Spring City Square is very nice before COVID-19 pandemic, but after COVID, its narrow slopes and stairs may make some problems for people to go down and easily and safety. So that may need designers to find spaces and reduce traffic of people in this area, especially that this area has commercial building next to it. That was my 3 case study. I hope that you get benefit, and I'm sorry for interrupting in the middle of my PPT. Thank you.
Thank you, Mooni. Now let's listen to our next panelist and her perspectives. Our next panelist is Mansi Sood.
Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon to all. I am Mansi Sood and I am a first-year student in IIT Roorkee. In the new pandemic era, the perception of urban spaces has been developed. Pandemic has changed the way in which users uses the public spaces. In this picture, we can see Israel Plates in Copenhagen. The left side image is from 2018 and the right one is from 2020. We can surely see a difference in this picture. As people have grown sensitive to the idea of their personal space, because of which people are hesitant to use public spaces, which is resulting in a high demand of wide open public spaces. Public spaces that are accessible to all and that are safe. In the picture on the screen, this picture also gives us an idea about how people have shifted their ways of using open spaces. Now, after pandemic, people travel less, and in regions with lockdown, there was a decrease of 50 to 75% in road transport activity. With this reduction in vehicles, the streets provide opportunities for more public spaces, and they can act as a flexible and versatile spaces, which is one of the demands of post-Covert spaces. The design and spaces we create are a series of choices that we make. And if we are given a choice to rethink our choices, would we be making the same choices? To understand the choices we're making, we should have an idea, a clear picture of how pandemic affected us. It has socially impacted the vulnerable, marginalized societies the most. Economically, there was a global drop across countries of about 9.5% of GDP, and environmentally, carbon emissions were dropped by 8% in 2020, which could be noticed clearly by people. Also, we learned that the use of digital tools monitoring contagion and ensuring the respect of social distancing, urban mobility has been strongly impacted, and people have started rethinking about alternative options such as cycling. Compact cities have been long praised with their benefits, even in COVID-19 context. Dense urban environment can provide quicker access to health and services. And also a recent finding done by OECD do suggest that urban density is not automatically correlated with a higher infection rate. Cities are adapting and adapting new concepts like 15-minute and concepts like 15-minute cities have been developed. To get a better understanding of this, I would like to present effective urban responses for pandemic. The responses that are these responses that are seen can be divided into short-term interventions and medium and long-term interventions. We'll try to understand the short-term interventions with the help of a case. And this was a public space that was created for an inaugural purpose for opening of a mixed-use complex in Shanghai. It was called the Crystal Pool, and this was the installation that was done during the opening. Rethinking the public space after pandemic would be determined by various factors. Factors including adaptability, multifunction, and versatile nature. In pandemic era, public places can be multifaceted, versatile, and constantly respond to change. With economic effects of pandemic, public spaces play a critical role to provide vendors with adequate safe distances and protective gear for them to continue earning a living. So public spaces for livelihood has been emerged as a new concept after the pandemic. Also, throughout the pandemic, open areas ought to provide vital services for marginalized groups and people that are basically homeless. Basic services like essential services that would be including water and sanitation services, facilities. And after pandemic, these essential services should now be part of any public spaces or urban spaces that we design. In pandemic circumstances, a sense of interest is critical in encouraging people to use a public space. The source of everything, this project, was proposed to evoke various feelings within the users. Celia Lee once said that people are lazy, but they are curious. And projects in spaces like this evoke curiosity in people, and people do look forward to undergo various experiences that projects like this offer to them. Taking case of Bentham Plain Square in Rotterdam, which was developed in 2013, after pandemic, we realized a need of open public areas throughout the city. Spaces that would encourage activities like cycling, gathering, and walking. Also, designers should begin selecting the most appropriate materials that could be easily cleaned and that would be helpful in maintenance of any public space. Urban green areas should be distributed and planned in a responsive manner with functional alternatives that would be ready to respond to the future changing needs. Planning self-sufficient neighborhood was also a concept that is being emerged after that has emerged after post-pandemic, or existing of a 50-minute compact city neighborhood, which would help achieve a fair distribution of all the vital resources, streets, and all the public areas throughout the community. And lastly, urban spaces should make use of the local context rather than having a same skeleton for all the cities. In Rotterdam, the Rotterdam Square that we saw, that took care, the square took care of the excessive water during the rainy season, and it has been collected to a tank, and that could be utilized for the other season. With pandemic, perception and choices of people have changed, and urban design should work parallelly for new choices of people. Also, like my co-panelist Nikita rightly said that it is not the first pandemic, neither it is the last. And we will need to keep thinking and then rethink about how we can make our cities the cities that we want to see them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mansi. Now let's listen to the perspective of next panelist, Rishi Barai.
Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. So good afternoon all. I am Rishi Barai. So earlier public space norms were taught in terms of concrete rules, metrics, and principles of good urban design. One had to calculate a fixed number of square meters of green space per person in a new urban area and provide amenities and functions like school, shops, or other urban services within a set parameter, which was considered to be a walking distance. So through the years, new approaches emerged and new dimensions were added to the understanding of public spaces, such as public participation, inclusiveness, and co-creation. Providing green spaces in the city gained more importance and continued to be a significant indicator of the quality of urban life. It is a gradual evolving process. We as built environment professionals learn from our past experiences and try to incorporate our knowledge to design better public spaces for people. Over the past decade, we have seen many new and amazing urban interventions that are quite unique and proved to be effective in a larger scale. But COVID pandemic has changed everything. It has affected the world in many ways, and so did it affect the consideration for public spaces. Now, social distancing norm has to be followed in outdoors, proper hygiene has to be maintained, designing of street intervention changes totally, and many more. Also, it has affected public emotionally and mentally. Staying in isolation away from the street and outdoors have made negative impact on physical and mental health of people. As the lockdown sets down, people will tend to visit public spaces. So now it is our duty to study and decide public spaces that suits people in post-COVID world. And to do so, we must study how the already designed and existing public spaces are being conceived by people. So here I will be presenting 3 case studies which are very different in nature from each other and try to analyze how they are being conceived by people and how they contribute to rethinking of public spaces in post-COVID world. The first case study is Metropole Parasol. So this is located in the city of Seville, Spain. It was a winning entry for a competition to fill up an empty space left behind in the Plaza de la Encarnación after demolition of the Central Farmers Market. Designed by architect J. Mayer H., it contains an historical museum in the sub-ground level, a covered market space in the ground level, a commercial area and a plaza above the market on a raised promenade, and a viewing platform with a restaurant within 6 gigantic mushroom-like structure made of timber. The project was completed in 2011 and stands in stark contrast to the geometry of the old town, its materiality and its material and the mentality. At first, people didn't like it. They thought that the modern mushroom-like form and the design could not exist in harmony with the traditional central hub of the city. But with time, people began to appreciate all the positive changes that this project has brought to the vicinity. Looking at it in a post-pandemic scenario, the most important question that comes to my mind is, will this place work the same? During peak COVID spread outs and lockdown, this place was closed. So after COVID, will people come back? If yes, why? If no, why? It was a busy part of the city. It was one of the busiest market of the city. It was part of the central business district, and it was one of the most iconic structure of the city. Over time, it became an integral part of people's life, living in the vicinity, working there, and people who have shops there, and the people who visit the place regularly. After COVID, they will be the first persons to come back to the space. But the question is, how safe are they gonna feel there? In order to make them feel safe, necessary changes must be made according to the guidelines. But changes will not come very easily to such a contextually established and rigid space. So the public spaces of post-COVID world need to be flexible enough to be able to adapt to needs of changing conditions. Then I come to my second case study, which is East Side Coastal Resiliency. So this is located in Manhattan, New York. The East Side Coastal Resiliency Project, also known as ESCR, is a coastal protection initiative aimed at reducing flood risk due to coastal storm and sea level rise on Manhattan's east side. The project design integrates flood protection into community fabric, improving waterfront open spaces and access rather than walling off the neighborhood. Construction of the East Side Coastal Resiliency Project began in 2020 and it will continue through 2026. It is a 3.5 kilometer long stretch designed by big architects. And ESCR is aimed to shield the city from stormwater surge and coastal flooding and provide social and environmental benefit to the community. This project builds physical, social, and economical resiliency, strengthening the city's coastline while re-establishing public spaces, enabling outdoor gathering opportunities, and improving water accessibility. Unlike Metropole Parasol, ESCR has much lower density, much higher degree of flexibility so as to adapt to changing conditions and needs. Metropole Parasol was perfectly designed for the condition and context of Seville back in 2011, but its design is too rigid to adapt to changing situations like the time of pandemic, whereas ESCR does the job of protecting it against the flood with very creative solution of landscaping and leveling of ground. It consists of multiple sports fields, running and cycling tracks, parks, and many more. All this design intervention promotes physical well-being of public using the space. It also provides an opportunity for the local to socialize. The large area of project also allows for social distancing and decentralization of crowd. Moreover, the trees, the greeneries, and the connection to water improves mental well-being of the users, overall improving the mental resiliency of the people, which is very important in post-COVID world. So the public spaces of post-COVID world needs to be such which increases increases people's mental and physical resiliencies, keeping them healthy in tough times. The next project, the third project that I have is Piazza Vecchia, which is in Bergamo, Italy. The Piazza Vecchia is a Renaissance square, which Le Corbusier called the most beautiful square in Europe. As a part of major international landscape symposium held in September 2014, this historical square was temporarily transformed into a contemporary landscape, exploring the theme of well-being and healing. The square was covered with landscape and the pathways were highlighted in contrasting colors. Peter Flink's design focused on exploring two key issues. The first one, how can the Piazza Vecchia become temporarily green, both literally in an environmental sense and metaphorically as a place of new growth and positive change? And the second point, how could the new and old coexist momentarily in an unexpected way as a part of continual evolving urban narrative? When people see friends, meet and greet their neighbors and feel comfortable interacting with strangers, they tend to feel a strong sense of place and or attached to the community. Besides creating a platform for meeting and events, the temporary transformation of square becomes a thought-provoking act that directly public attention to the positive importance and implication of placemaking. And Piazza Vecchia, which remained unchanged for centuries, found a new identity, a fresh perspective in the eyes of locals and thousands of other visitors who attended the symposium. Looking in post-COVID world now, people want to enjoy public spaces more than ever. Because they were home from past 1 year. And Piazza Vecchia sets an perfect example of how to give a new identity to an existing public space. A solution like this will rejuvenate and invigorate the use of public space in the post-COVID world. So on a conclusive remark, the three case studies that I have presented has shown that public spaces of post-COVID world needs to be flexible, should promote mental and physical well-being, and should also give a fresh perspective of the whole new world out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishi. Now let's move into the panel discussion. We are given 10 minutes. So followed by that, we will have question and answer session with the audience. So my first question is, how will our relationship with public space change?
Okay, Rahul, can I answer this question?
Please.
Yes, it is a change according to the situation which happened. For example, when we were cooped up in our homes during the early days of pandemic lockdown, people suddenly saw the places they take for granted in a new light. The places we walk through, where they walk through and run into, where people go to study and their children go to play. These places were access basic needs like food and exercises. They were taken away from us. So when we were finally able to venture out again, we saw record use of the bike and trails and efforts to make more rooms for public spaces. So yes, there is a relationship with public spaces, and it is a change according to the situation itself. Thank you.
I would also like to add on to this. So according to me, like I said in my presentation, people connect to a space when they meet with other people in the space, when they talk with their neighbors, when they meet their friends in the public space, they tend to attach to the place. But from past 1.5 years, we have been homebound and we have not visited in public space for most of the time. So this kind of made a gap between the public and the spaces around us. So that gap is still there, and right now when we go back to public spaces, we will have that mental constraint that it's a new kind of space or we are not related to that space. So that was my point.
I would also like to add to that actually. What basically I think that what from the studies that I have done about it, I feel that after pandemic, we really need public spaces and urban spaces that are on a bigger level, like on a bigger scale, wider scale, open public spaces, and that is what I needed. But when we think about it in a very clear manner, we are going to need bigger, wider public spaces, but also the population is also rising. So the city, the buildings, the spaces that buildings take and the construction take, projects like that take, that is also increasing. So with that, we'll basically need to find a balance so that we'll have even big public spaces as well as the development that is happening in that manner of construction projects. And for that, what I think is that we need to try to think of constructing our cities in a very natural manner, the cities that could have a design of an urban space itself. So we don't need to, so in future, we might not be needing a segregation of urban spaces and the developing cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mansi. Thank you, Maimuna. Thank you, Rishi. Can we move on to the next question? Dear panelist, how long will the changes endure? What's your opinion?
I can answer that question. In my opinion, so look, experts last year said that COVID will likely lose its pandemic status sometimes in 2020 due to largely to rising global vaccination rates and development of antiviral COVID pills. That could become more widespread next year. But the problem that now no one knows what will be the next. So we as urban designer students should put in mind some solution for our streets and public spaces via pandemic. Because in my opinion, I don't know what will happen next. We said that it will be end, but we don't know what will happen really next.
Yeah. Rahul, can I respond to this question?
Please, Nikki.
Yeah, I think definitely yes, the global scenario will change somehow because we tend to live along with this pandemic situation, and more inclusive design will be promoted. From my case studies, I have inferences that green and open spaces will be preferred over very dead spaces, and along with the neighborhood aspect, so it can be accessible small range of area, and moreover the vehicular movement will be restricted and focus on the healthy cities rather than the infrastructure development. Yeah, here's my views.
Thank you all panelists. Let's move on to the third question. What is the relationship between public space design and disease transmission?
Like to okay, ma'am. Can I go ahead, Mansi? So COVID-19 being an airborne disease, like it spreads through air, and public spaces are the major spaces where the crowds come together. We all go to public spaces to meet others, to look at other people. So that becomes a very it becomes a hotspot where the disease can spread. So I think like looking at it at a post-pandemic lens, guidelines should be followed, and necessary interventions should be made so as to reduce the risk of this spreading of the disease.
Thank you, Rishi.
Actually, I found a very contradictory document about it. Not like contradictory in the way COVID is an airborne disease and it spreads to air. That's true. But I read a report by OECD, and what they mentioned that particularly In COVID cases, it doesn't have to do anything with density as such. And what the recent studies they did actually showed that because like denser cities and the more metropolitan cities are having that education and that tools and that resources. So in such a way, the infection rate is not that high, like it's not correlated with density.
Thank you, Mansi, for raising a contradicting views. That makes the interaction more lively. Any more comments? So let's move on to the next question. Will the new social behaviors we observe today remain or be ephemeral?
Can I answer that, Rahul?
Please.
Okay, in my opinion, it will end as soon as the pandemic ends, because it is somewhat difficult to live such a life with so many restrictions, and the COVID-19 pandemic represents a massive global health crisis, because the crisis requires large-scale behaviors and change the place physically, and I think yes, it will do.
Yeah, that's what all of us are hoping. Any more comments? Let's move on to the next question. Will people's emotional connections with place change?
May I go on?
Yes, please.
I feel it has already changed. That from past 1 year I have not visited the from past 1 year we are homebound and we have not visited our favorite public spaces or the favorite spot that we hang out with our friends, right? So the relationship with that place has already changed, and it is our duty as an urban designer student to set back the relationship to get people go out of home and feel safe in the same spot in the same urban space outside.
Yeah, the change is happening, so it's time that we should measure it. As a continuation. Yeah, please, Maimuna.
Yes, I agree. Yes, of course, place attachments and meaning are particularly changed. And when considering issues of urban development and community building, attachment to that place and meaning emerge from a variety of experience and situations, and are often related to parks, green spaces, and natural areas. So I also read that research reveals that people feel more at areas in the type of landscape they grew up, and that individual experience reduction in streets when they recreate in setting where they feel most at home. So yes, it has already changed, and it will change more and more.
So that is the end of our moderated panel discussion, and let's go into the Q&A session. First question is from Niranjana Sajan. I will read out the question. With such a vibrant socio-cultural setting, as well as widely contrasting economic context in India, be it the chaos that we are familiar with, my question is more to do with your thoughts on how to translate the examples or the principles behind them in our vibrant and chaotic urban spaces. But also, the major question remains, in your opinion, do you really see any changes in our urban spaces pre and post pandemic? Have people gone back to how it was before, struck due to pandemic fatigue? I think some portions were already answered, but still, if someone feels like adding more, especially to the Indian context, please.
Yeah, I wish to respond. Like in India, we are having 1.4 billion people living in a country, and so we have a certain vibrant setting along with the very disparity economic context. So that's why we are facing so in urban spaces. And the second question, that the urban spaces have been changes from pre to post pandemic, I don't think so. Personally, I believe that it's not much, because urban places are for the people and by the people. If people are not, tend to change themselves, the protocols and all the intervention is gone into vain. So yes, as to my belief, it's have not changed much in Indian context.
Any more thoughts?
I would like to add. Okay, Mansi, go ahead, please. I'll go after you.
I also think a bit similar to Nikita, because I feel that there was some, like, everything is related when we talk about pandemic. So people try to stay inside and they were not using any urban spaces, public spaces as well as streets and mobility things, like they were not traveling as such. And with at that time there was there was noticed, like, researches were done and studies were done, and they were they could quantify the percent of carbon emission that went down, that it was about 8% of the carbon emission that went down globally. And with varied cities and varied countries, it was different. Like for maybe India, the carbon emission was a little less when we compare to it. So in that context, and people really did studies, and there was news headlines that because the carbon emission went down, even in Delhi, there was no longer smog as such. So that was actually a thing that was related to urban design and urban places. So, but as soon as there was the lockdown were released, and as such, the carbon emission rates were back to normal as such. So I think that as soon as the protocols have been removed and there's no thing by as such by governance, so that would be lacking in terms of, and people might go back to normal.
Yeah, we all want to be back to normal again. That is all our hope. There is one more question. The question is asked by Prakalp Ajay. When we talk about Indian context, smart cities is the hot topic for overall development of the urban areas. How smart cities concept can help to incorporate post-pandemic lifestyle of highly dense urban cities? What ideas would you suggest that can be incorporated as a part of this scheme for developing public spaces?
Can I respond?
Please.
Yeah, so when we talk about the Indian context, this smart city have a very broad way of aspects, which include the infrastructure methods. So for this smart city project, we can involve a very small zone of which we can focus on. For example, local area planning or annual planning or some spatial zoning planning can be done for this region, and from that we can find out what is the issues and what is the problem regarding that, and can we find the solution based on that set of zones. So for that we can have street designing or public space designing, which include whatever the issues will be covered. This area of aspect can be included in smart city program.
Let's move on to the next question. Next question is asked by Smriti ma'am. Rethinking public spaces in a post-COVID world, a permanent change or a temporary fad? I think some of you have already expressed your views on that. So let's move on to the next question. Next question is asked by Tina ma'am. Towards the end of this interviewing session on rethinking public spaces, it would be wonderful to hear from the panelists what they think must be the qualities of any outdoor shared space to qualify it as a public space post the pandemic. That will be our last question, and already our time is up. So this will be the concluding question for the session. Please.
I would like to answer that, if I may. Or Rishi, you can go ahead. I'll follow you.
I just want to add one quick point, one quality that I feel is the most important that should be like incorporated in a public space after pandemic. It is the point of like the space should always try to promote the mental and physical well-being of the person, of the user using the space. So the public space should have some element of green or some natural element which kind of improves the mental well-being, in which in turn makes the person more mentally resilient, so as to like keep up with the tough times like pandemic.
If I may, I would like to add that one thing that I found common in my presentation as well as Nikita's presentation as well as Rishi's presentation, that one of the qualities that urban space should have, it should provide flexibility. And I think most of the studies that are coming after the pandemic suggest that the urban spaces should be multifaceted and they should be versatile, and basically they should be flexible in terms of the opportunities that it offers to people. Other than that, one of the important thing that also people felt is that apart from the experiences that urban spaces provide its users, there are another set of experiences and things that go behind an urban spaces. It basically provides livelihood to a lot of people, so there should be a regard for them. So like there should be public spaces that should provide opportunities for livelihoods of different vendors as such. And other than that, the spaces should be safe in the sense that people should feel that they'll not be, the space should be clean and well maintained in that sense. I think I would like to add that only. Thank you.
Sorry for the interruption. You may take some more questions because we have time.
So next question is from Saina ma'am. Do you think specific guidelines can work for post-pandemic cities, or piecemeal approach can have a potential in future urban developments, and how? Should I repeat the question? I'll read once more. Do you think specific guidelines can work for post-pandemic cities, or piecemeal approach can have a potential in future urban developments? How?
Can I answer this question?
Please, Maimuna.
I think in this time, in this pandemic, yeah, these guidelines can help. But if this pandemic has take a lot of time, more years, coming years, I don't think so. I think that it needs a lot of things like rethinking in designing places, and teachers should explaining more about that in universities, and so many things should be happened if this pandemic have to be more. But if it will be ended soon, so these guidelines will help. Yes, thank you.
Any more thoughts, or shall we move ahead with the next question? Okay, let's go with the next question. Next question is asked by Prakhalp Ajay on behalf of Tina ma'am. Question number 1. Towards the end of this, okay, I think that is already answered. And any tangibles too, that is addition. Question number 2 is, it's been wonderful getting to know about urban projects across the world, each one a different typology. With this knowledge base, what must be the new movement in urban design for the post-COVID world?
Yeah, I wish to answer. As the Rishi mentioned that mental well-being will be the most broad thing in the new urban design, which will be follow and which will be a very considerable design element in urban spaces. Then the second will be the lesser use of the vehicular movement, more pedestrian and bicycle will be the promoted, and the third will be the more spaces that we can have the social distancing and less crowded place, and specifically for the children and the old age people, because they are most prone to these pandemic diseases and everything. We will focus on the inclusivity as well as the mental well-beings both.
Thank you, Nigita. Any more thoughts, panelists?
About the second question, like what I feel is this exercise, this case studies has given us a very wide range of different ideologies about what kind of design worked in the pandemic, the designs that were the public spaces that were built like a decade ago or 5 years ago, how are they behaving in today's state, and what aspect of their design are still making them work out in today's state. So I feel like it is a very informative exercise, and it will be quite helpful in future while designing any more public spaces.
Thank you, Rishi. There are 2 more questions from Tina ma'am. Mansi, you started with a wonderful comparative picture. There is more than one study which talks about the shift from large-scale public spaces to small-scale ones post the pandemic. Any comments on that?
I have also come across the thoughts that people are having on that public space should be qualitative, and it's like they should be of good quality, and they can be of a smaller scale as such, like given the thought that they are very rich in their features as such. So there's another thought, but most of the people's opinion and the studies that I have seen through recommend that people should like the urban spaces that would be preferring post pandemic should be open and wide, like mostly public spaces should be open as such when we talk about post pandemic, and they should be of a larger scale. But I think, yeah, I have also come across some of the articles that are having a contradictory thing in terms of scale particularly.
Thank you, Mansi. Next question is towards Moni. Moni, you are from Yemen. I'm not sure if you are already visited India yet, but let's say you got a chance to design the post-pandemic urban spaces in India. Would the interventions be very different from what you would design with regard to public spaces in Yemen post-pandemic?
Rahul, can you repeat that? I disconnected. I didn't hear the end of the question.
Tina ma'am is asking whether the interventions that you would give for a post-pandemic city in Yemen will it be same as that that you will go for post-pandemic city of Indian city?
Okay. I got your question. It will be same in some cases, but not the same in everything, because Yemen doesn't have the same structure of India. India, for example, have high lines, have subways, and have other places which Yemen doesn't have. So in the case of India, I think in urban spaces in pandemic will be more than public spaces in Yemen. In public spaces in Yemen, you cannot stop people from going to work and stay at home and make these guidelines, because it's not that a country which has a good economic like India. So yes, it has some big differences. There is some differences between Yemen and India.
I think there is no more questions in the Q&A session. So it was indeed a nice session, and I thank all my fellow panelists and all the others. Someone has raised a hand.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. I had made a scheduling error, so if there are people willing to ask more questions, we can push it till 5:30.
Okay. Any more questions? But there is no more questions in the Q&A session. Is there any other sources of questions? There is one more question. It is from Prakalp Ajay. We observed several social inequalities during lockdown post-pandemic. How public spaces would be designed to be more inclusive for that social mental discrimination? What design implementations can be thought to tackle this problem? This question is pertaining to the new social dogmas that emerged. Yes, Gauri, please.
I think when I was researching and reading about creative placemaking, I came across a video in which a professional creative placemaker was talking about how we tend to make our spaces in a way that public spaces in a way that people require permission to enter that space. We need more public spaces where people do not require a certain kind of permission, formal permission to get into the space, so that there are all sorts of people of all sorts of background can come together at a single place. Without any sort of discrimination. Like we have public parks and garden spaces which do not require you to get a ticket, or which do not require you to cross a gate and come into, or because there is some sort of mental constraint that tells us that we are not allowed to get in there. So I think there is something that is to be changed about the mentality through design interventions, that people do not require permission to enter into a space.
Thank you, Gauri, for sharing your perspectives.
I think adding to what Gauri said, that at the level of policy making, policymakers should also have a view that public areas should be evenly spread out throughout the cities, and they should be well connected, so that it doesn't happen something like that in a neighborhood that is very posh as such. People are having a privilege of a public space or a common space, and in a say economical weaker section, they're not having a privilege of having a public space. So having these places spread out evenly within a city, I think that would also make a difference.
Thank you, Mansi. Any more thoughts on this same question? On the new emerged the social dogmas that is prevalent now, which we never saw before. So again, from the same question, what design implementations can be thought? Any thought on the, like any suggestions like this might work? Any thoughts on that? Like spreading of the, like uniforming the social amenities was said by Mansi, evenly spreading them out. Any more suggestion?
I think design implementation might include having consideration for designing for different people and having flexible spaces and spaces that could cater to all. So like we are not actually designing parks from the Victorian era, like people can only walk in that. We should provide public spaces that give people opportunities to do various things, like people could cycle in that, can walk through that, can exercise, do whatever they want. So I think in terms of design implementation, that could be one thing, like providing flexibility and opportunities to different set of people across the society.
Thank you, Mansi. So again and again, flexibility and the points we already discussed. I think there is no more questions in the Q&A session, but we still have 17 more minutes. Any of the other participants like to answer the same question?
Rahul, I think we do have questions in the Q&A box.
Is it?
Check in the in review section.
Okay. Yeah, we have a question from Saina ma'am. What strategies or design can be used balance public space design for post-pandemic cities and climate, especially in tropical countries, considering the urgent need of openness in public spaces? What strategies or design can be used balance public space design for post-pandemic cities and climate, especially in tropical countries, considering the urgent need of openness in public spaces?
I think there can be like implementation in level of policies where the density has to be like checked by the policies, and like certain amount of open spaces has to be given per square feet of area. So that in a way might solve this problem.
Also, having open spaces can still be accompanied with shaded open spaces. After density, we can also consider having shaded open spaces that can help us through strong sun and all those weathers.
Yeah. So there is one more question from Smriti ma'am. There is some time lag. Questions are getting published late. Sorry, ma'am. Okay, there is one more question from Smriti ma'am. Just out of interest and curiosity, if you were to select one project which would be the favorite one by each panel? Why? If you were to select one project, which would be the favorite one by each panel? Why?
Perhaps the moderators should answer that.
Oh.
The panel moderators.
Okay, so that should be my okay. I will go for super film, which was presented in panel 1 in the session 1, because it had more like inclusive, like it looked more interesting to me, where more of it was not only visually pleasing but also it was most welcoming. It was more people inclusive place, and it had certain implications on the society. So I will go for super film. Other moderators from the previous session?
Hello. So my favorite one, I think, is the Garden of Frames, which Dhruv presented. I feel that project has very subtly and very minimally it established a very like beautiful link between the passerbys by the user and the nature or the forest behind. The forest was already there. It has already been there for past like many years, but the small addition of the frame, it created a link between the passerbys and the forest. So I like that one the most.
So thank you, Rishi, for sharing your favorite. Let's listen to more favorite projects from each panelist. Mansi?
I think there was a project that was presented by Ayushi. It was called Be Mine project, and I think that having a public space created in a place where there has been mines is a pretty interesting concept to me, actually. Like in India, in Chhattisgarh also, we have a lot of mines as such, but I don't think we have any such projects in our context as such. So I think that is, and when any city, like most of the cities that I have heard about are having some connection with mines and something like that, and that actually becomes the identity of the whole city as such. So creating a project like that and like involving things related to that only and featuring some things like that was quite interesting to me.
Anyone else like to share their favorite from the lot we discussed? There is 10 more minutes.
Smriti ma'am has talked about her favorites.
Yeah, in the review. So thanks a lot. My favorites are Gardens of Frames presented by Dhruv and Sand Project presented by Sandeep. And I meant one per panel. Oh, okay, one per all themes. So you have to tell from all three panels, you have to select one. Then there is a comment from Tina ma'am. I think Smriti has started a very interesting discussion. Let me add a bit more to her question. Which project would you think would work best in the post-pandemic world? That is bringing more depth to the question. So from all the three panels, you have to choose one and appropriate its post-pandemic appropriateness also based on that.
I would like to answer to Tina ma'am's question. The pandemic is not yet over, so we can't really say which one would suit well for the post-pandemic world, ma'am.
Yeah, pandemic is not yet over, but we have seen like relaxation of restrictions, again curbing of restrictions. So with each wave, there is more restrictions and a relaxation of restrictions. So I think by seeing two consecutive curves and much more relaxations, maybe some panelists have developed their own personal views. Let's listen to them. Dhruv has raised his hand. Yes, Dhruv.
Yes, Rahul, I will like to answer Tina ma'am's question as well. Not to sound like a bit of a narcissist, but the project that I have presented will work very good in during the pandemic and the post-pandemic time. Like the way it helps people to interact, although being in without having any contact with each other, like maintaining a certain distance, the audio and visual stimulation that it provides to people is like an amazing thing that I feel like that project has achieved. And the old style telephones that transmit people's stories, like different people can learn from each other's experience without coming in contact with each other. So I feel like it will work quite good during the pandemic. Thank you.
Dhruv, would you share your favorite from each panel, from all the 3 sessions?
Okay, so from the first session, it's a little difficult to choose because all the projects were quite amazing, I must say. And I would say from the first panel, as I'm more into, I look more at a conceptual thing of a project. So I feel like Smriti's ma'am presented very correctly that the sand project that was given by Sandeep was a very beautiful project where they've very minimally achieved something that would not have been like that. A lot of people may do a lot of interventions to achieve that same thing, but in this project they have done it very effectively with very minimal material. And from the second panel, I liked the Miyashita Park that was represented by Gauri. It had a complete, story of itself. Like when people were moved from that place, and after that, they started occupying that place again after it was transformed. So it's very in-depth related to the history of the place. And, it's kind of engraved with the place itself. And from the third panel, I would say it's a little contradictory to say this, but Rishi's that parasol project, that although it doesn't fit very well, like I personally feel like it fits a little less in a pandemic and a post-pandemic situation. But at the same time, I feel we can make some things can be done, some changes can be done to make it, it has got a lot of scope to itself. Like it's a beautiful project, and I feel like it has got a lot of scope of improvement during the post-pandemic time. So that is why I like that project. Thank you.
Thank you, Dhruv. Rishi, can you share which are your other favorite projects from the other 2 panels? You shared only one.
From panel 3, my favorite project was Piazza Vecchia, which I had presented in the last. So the intervention was only a temporary intervention. It was only for 15 days, but the impact it created was something no one had imagined. It had created a new, if I may say, it had made the plaza a new plaza, like it had turned the old plaza into a new plaza, because the public, they had a very fresh and new perspective to look at the plaza. So especially in the these post-COVID cities, we need something like that. We need a fresh look at the public spaces, a new trusting element in the public space that people would be attracted to. So I think that is my favorite from panel 3. And from panel 1, From panel one, I must say I also loved the sand project by Sandeep, because like it is so like in India, if I may say about my childhood, during my childhood we used to play a lot on the sands, okay, but we never imagined that this sand could be a thought of it can be a thought of an intervention that can impact a space like that, in it can transform which can transform a space in such a way. So that was my favorite from panel one.
And your views on that post-pandemic world about the sand project?
Yeah, I feel it will work fantastically, because sand is very it's very easy to mold the shape, mold the space into, like with sand you can create whatever kind of space you want, whatever kind of contours, or whatever kind of if you want a pit somewhere, you can create it instantly. The childrens, they go there, they dig in, within 5 minutes there's a big pit, there's a big sit out there. So it's very flexible, the element of sand. So I feel it'll work perfectly.
Thank you, Rishi. Let's listen to, we have 3 more minutes. Let's listen to at least one more person regarding their favorite project from each session. Anyone? We have a new post. Congratulations from Smriti ma'am. Congratulations and compliments to all of you. Thoroughly enjoyed the panel discussions, showcasing unique and bizarre projects or concepts. Yeah, thank you, ma'am. You have 2 more minutes. Anyone like to share? Yes, Sandeep. Yeah, I think our time is almost up. It was a well spent day. Yeah, Sandeep, please.
Yes, sorry, I'm really sorry. It was not working. Can you hear me properly right now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Thank you. At least I think in the first panel, I just want to point out the Ayushi's project, Be Mind, perfectly. Because especially not just a central spine, I think there are lots of vertical, like a forest kind of standalone wooden logs were planted out in a grid format. And at the elevation that it gives, right? The elevation that gives, it's not a flat land like other parks that we see in other examples that we have seen today. It's a vertical one. So kind of what happens is when we go to a public square, especially in situation like this, we don't want a lot of people around, because that scarcity is scarce. The scare will be there, in a head. So when you go to that kind of elevation and you have your own point of way, you will always see less number of people. If you can find your own sweet spot, you can just still enjoy the outspaces. You're outdoor, but still your view will be limited because of the landscape that's going on. So I thought at least the mental point of view that which Dhruv has mentioned is very interestingly. I think in that way, that kind of fits into that. So that one is there. That really, I think that has a lot of possibilities actually. I thought that's one. I just want to mention that one. Other panels, I think, that just stands at best for me right now. So leave it at that for now. Thank you for having the chance.
Yeah, we have successfully made it to 5:30. I think it was a fruitful endeavor. Thank you each. I like to thank each one of us who made this possible. Thank you.
Rahul, I'm sorry I'm interrupting. Can we all switch on our cameras and have a group picture?
Yeah, please.
Sandeep, you're looking like a ghost right now. Yeah, better. Others also, please open your cameras.
everyone, please switch on their cameras. Let's make it memorable.
Yeah, I am going. Are you getting the large gallery view? I am not getting it for some reason.
I went for together mode.
Yeah, okay, now I can get it. 4 3s are 12. कोई कम है ना? Nikita?
We are, no, I'm open. Made me spotlight.
Dhruv is missing, right?
Dhruv?
Aishi.
Dhruv
Sorry,
is
Aishi.
Karthik is not there. Maimuna.
Maimuna, we are 15.
Maimuna, please open your camera. Dhruv, open your camera.
Dhruv is open.
Okay.
Dhruv is here. Dhruv is here.
Yeah, my camera is open.
Muni, are you switching on? No. Okay.
Let's take it.
Hey, sorry, I couldn't.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Done.
Thank you.
Would it be possible to take a photograph with all the participants as well? Just thought, okay, if they're able to open their cameras. So.
Meg can do that.
Yes, I think the attendees can also turn on their cameras. Hello, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am.
Tina ma'am is not there.
Tina ma'am, I think
Finally, we are given some rights to be visible and be audible. Thank you.
Every time, I thought of a question, I had to struggle कि कहाँ से अभी तो कभी जिंदगी में question ही type नहीं किया इस Teams पे, इसमें बहुत मेहनत लगी ये ढूंढने में कि सब question post कहाँ से करना है.
Yeah, it took me a while also. It took also a while for me also. कहाँ हो आप? I can't. Yeah, I can see you. Okay. Tina,
but it was a good effort.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, also compliments to Muni. She has lots of internet problems and other things, and she has been coordinating on and off classes, lots of discussions. I think she's very fond of discussions. Compliments on that.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if Tina is here. We can probably take a picture. Tina has left. Okay, I think on the count of 3, somebody can take a picture and then let's just go. Abhi to everybody deserves a tea or coffee. बहुत हो गया.
Yes, ma'am. We'll just do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Taken.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining.